Well,
So,
well,
um,
that's how it be sometimes. I learned yesterday. Emma played it, got up to level 20 and or level 15 or something, and is doing a
And or level,
lot better now at the game because they
yeah,
realized that they have they with less people, more enemies, and more Bruzov, they can make a build that's better and more entertaining for them, as opposed to just doing something strictly involving the psi powers.
yeah,
you really do need to take the time to play through by yourself to like understand what the hell is even going. It's a dense game. It is.
and on top of that, like I was talking to Nick the other night, and he was just like, I felt like I was doing nothing, and it's like realistically, you kind of were because you were level 1, and we were like, let's just dial it up to like max level difficulty and max level spawns.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
became and because we didn't realize that about the split health or reduced health anyway, we just kind of were like
Fuck yeah.
one shot kills pretty much for everyone, especially because you all were in light armor
Yeah.
Yeah.
by default,
Level
which
one.
is
So
I think even CJ, you were having difficulty with medium, right?
I switched to heavy because like like medium just wasn't cutting it in regards to like actually being worth a damn.
Yeah, I mean, before just continuing tangent before we actually start talking about Star Wars. I think that game is just literally geared for you to want to be the dude in power armor using either heavy weapons or melee weapons. I'm pretty sure that's all it's geared for.
I mean, it definitely seems to encourage that kind of play.
Yeah, because like I did our settings alone, and it's just like it was impossible to do without heavy armor at first, and without using. I was using the sniper because I was getting good with the sniper before, so it's just like
So we are now live on Twitch.
Hello.
I think everything is going good.
hello everyone on Twitch.
Let's see.
Hi, puppy. You need to chill. You need to chill.
Zach, what are you doing? Why are you burking?
Because he's telling us to
He
shut
brought
up
the
and
toy
talk
over
about
to
Star
my
Wars.
wife and then wanted me to play with him, and I don't have the toy.
Father, Bork. Bork, where's the toy? Where'd you put the toy, Father? Bork. So
And that's Star Wars in a nutshell.
I guess to start it forward. Hi everybody, I'm CJ. This is a podcast that we're starting up just because Plague also nerd shit needs to be talked about in a very unbiased, entertaining way. I guess would be put forward.
I'm
You.
okay.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Non-biased conversation about anything nerdy is impossible in this day and age.
Pretty much.
Yes. Happy New Year, everyone! It's 2020, day one, the dawn of a new day. PNG.
2020 game, new game plus.
December 32nd, 2020.
No, it's not. All right.
New
we
game plus.
if we want to go around the quote unquote table, as it were, and introduce ourselves. So hi, I'm CJ. I started streaming about 2 weeks ago, and I've been having fun with it. And hopefully, this is not AA, Brianna. Stop it, Peanut Gallery.
No, it's AAA. 3 A's.
E.
We're a bad car service provider because we don't have cars.
Oof. All right. If Mr. Catface wants to go next on the introduction route.
All right, sure.
Oh,
Wait, which one is cat face?
I have a cat face. Do you have a cat face?
Oh wait, I have a Chihuahua face on my Steam. You're right. I'm retarded. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's fine. It's fine, man. It's all good.
So now that we've figured out the difference between cats and dogs, I am Alec. I'm the resident apologist for bad decisions by creatives. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
no.
nice to be here. Can't wait to talk about Attack of the Clones.
Oh no. All right, and let's go with the anime Chihuahua next.
All right, anime Chihuahua,
That's you.
better known as Zenogre from
Uh-oh. Forgetting the
Because-
game. Yeah.
He doesn't even know where he's from.
Sanogo from Monster Hunter World. Well, everyone was talking, and I was just like, I wonder if my audio is even coming through.
Yeah, I know. Your audio like cut out. You like accidentally blurst your mic very hard.
That's all right. Your introductions are endearing.
Hi, my name is like Flatline.
Listen, names are difficult today.
It's okay.
Shit.
It's
Fair.
okay. It's okay.
Just exits the stream.
Exit stream out of embarrassment.
Oh my god.
Local man commits seppuku because podcast didn't turn out well.
Just
What a
leaves
way to
Twitch.
start off the year.
Control Alt Delete self out of existence.
Throws out computer. Becomes a Mormon.
Hello,
It's extreme.
my name is
Becomes a
Elder
Mormon.
Price.
My name is Elder Josh,
Oh my god.
and I would like to share with you a
And
Oh no.
similar to Scorch, I'll be starting my streams up coming this week. I go by the moniker Game Test because I'll be testing a bunch of shit.
Awesome. Hi, Game Test. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks.
And last but not least, our resident wizard man.
Hi guys, I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Joe.
This is AA.
This is
Welcome.
AA.
Ah, damn it! I thought I had to go to church for AA. Now it's on fucking Discord. Shit.
Social distance. Social distance
Social
AA
distancing.
meetings. All right.
They find you.
Who knows what's in this McDonald's cup?
I'm a long-time Star Wars nerd. I'm a prequel apologist. Fight me.
That's okay.
We don't worry. We will. We will.
We
Sure.
will fight you.
And really, that's my dog Zach.
That's
He
cyberbullying.
doesn't like the prequels.
Ugh.
Plot twist. The enemy.
And we are here to argue with each other and debate with each other the values of Star Wars and other films and go on wild tangents unrelated to the topic because that's CJ. That's
Sounds
Scorch
right.
for you. He's the
Sorry.
champion of that. Alex gonna eventually talk about Prometheus.
It's true. This is
I
true.
have no idea why game test is here, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to add because
It's
they're
about
new to me.
about
And
cringe.
I like the people so long as their mic doesn't, go and hero.
You judge. You judge so much.
Oh, I do. I judge harshly for a prequel apologist.
It's okay.
I think I just. I think
I'll
I
be your
just.
sim during
Don't
this.
worry, I'll get you guys some midichlorians here in a minute if you don't shut up.
Oh Jesus Christ! Okay, if we're gonna start talking about end count, let's get to the first topic on the docket. And I just came up with the.
We have a docket. I thought we were just discussing and chatting.
We have a list of things to talk about, but we may or may not
It's a
go on
loose
wild
structure.
tangents. Yeah,
Shit.
and I think
guide.
I purposely came up with a really good title just based off of the Discord server. It's just going to be called the Distracted Podcast. There we go. Episode 1 or pilot episode title
The
done.
minutes.
The
Oh
Phantom.
god, this is atrocious, guys. I promise if we do this again, we'll actually have scripts.
All right, hear
It's-
me out.
it's
We should change it to Distracted Podcast Hero because I want to be a hero.
Sure.
No.
Or as the hero, the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
So,
I
anywho,
hate you all. Can we start?
yes. So the first topic I think that I really want to talk about because Alec and I talked about it on my Skyrim stream the Adventures of Rijan the Bold, and I talked briefly with it at the very tail end of episode 2 of I Divine Cybermancy with Joe when he hopped on towards the tail end of that stream for an hour.
We only lightly debated.
Yeah,
Shout out.
gently debated. It was more or less me talking at you, and you were tired, and you're like, "Oh fuck, I gotta go to sleep."
True.
It was
human being should.
yes, like all human beings should get their proper sleep for their circadian rhythm and their health. Make sure to drink your make sure to drink your water today, kids. The
Water?
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially after
say
drinking
fucking
last night.
hydrate or dihydrate, motherfucker. Like
What is this,
Hydrate.
alert?
yeah, exactly.
Drinks.
God, I cannot wait for an episode of this where we talk about live action role playing and Alex, the one that's like woefully not prepared or like has a first
Yeah,
experience.
I am not.
Guys,
I am
we're
not
talking about
prepared.
things I enjoy, and I'm woefully unprepared.
Yeah, I mean, distracted is a great way to go about it. So, anywho, for context, Alec and I are on two different paths of wanting to become writers of some sort, whether it's novelists or just doing something creative that gets put out into the world.
Yep.
And one of the things we talk about on my Skyrim modded Twitch stream is about writing, specifically tied to comic books and film, and like especially with major franchises. And one of the
Yeah.
things we talked about was how we'd rewrite and refine Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, which is, like, maybe without argument, the worst of the prequel trilogy films.
Of the prequel trilogy, absolutely.
It's my least favorite Star Wars anything ever. I think.
Yeah, I can.
I
I can support
have-
this decision.
I can say it's better than maybe some of the sequel stuff as a whole, but that's only because it tells a great narrative in the overall, whereas the sequels are only individual movies with light, loose connections.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
I
only
can
strength
agree
it
with that.
has over the sequels. It's
I can agree
still
with that.
a really bad movie, and that is 100% mostly in the dialogue and obviously the dated CGI, but you can't really complain about that.
Yeah.
20 years later,
Yeah,
of course it's gonna look bad.
the dialogue is truly a really big weak point.
The biggest strength of George Lucas is definitely not dialogue.
No, it's not. It's not even camera work. His strength is in conceptualization.
Yeah.
He comes up with
Correct.
amazing ideas. Amazing ideas.
Correct. Yeah, he can write something on a napkin, and it's probably the best thing you've ever read.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then he like tries to push it
to
up.
make it physical.
It
lot
gets
of
problematic.
That was the biggest problem with George Lucas is that he's a big picture guy, and unfortunately he keeps on getting supported by people that are either too worried about just making sure that his thought process gets through without looking at the details, or just not being surrounded by the people
Yeah.
that work on details
He-
for him. So that's why things have gone the way it has.
I want to say first and foremost that a lot of people stated back, in the early 2000s and the early days of the internet, really, when it was really popular to hate on the prequels. Obviously, that popularity has died down. There are still some diehards who are like, "Nah, prequels suck," but a lot of people have come to accept them as actually great parts of Star Wars.
Yeah, as a
Most
whole.
the sequels are worse.
So I mean, like, the only thing I will say about the prequels is that you summed up a bunch of books that at the time were canon. I don't remember if Disney ever said that they are no longer canon, or if they only made select few. I'm pretty sure they said select few, but I could be wrong about that. But the only thing I will say about the prequels is that it did kind of be a bad way to sum up like 4 or 5 books into one 2-hour movie each time.
The prequels are not based on any of the books.
Exactly.
They had nothing to do with the EU as they were written, and it was not Disney owned at the time. That was all George and Lucas.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's right. That's what I'm saying. Is like it's nothing connected to the books that are known.
Yeah, in fact, they contradicted a lot of the stuff that the EU had been doing up until that point.
Yeah.
The only thing that they were made to do was support how Darth Vader first became Darth Vader. And
Yep.
I don't think it did a horrendous job of doing that, but there's a lot of plot holes and consistency problems that we, to this day, are kind of just like, this is why the prequels suck.
And
Yeah.
that is a perfect transition to the subject of Attack of the Clones, because the
Yep.
movie fucking says nothing and does nothing with anything that it presents and what it advertises.
It doesn't.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
like point by
It's Attack
point.
of the Clones, and the clones attack in the last 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, and like point by point with the film, it opens up with political intrigue, with an assassination attempt in this whole conflict that's on the horizon of a separatist movement, possibly leading to a civil war. There isn't a whole lot of tension with that. It's kind of shoved back into the background for a really lackluster romance subplot that is it's like soft baked cookies, except it's not even made into cookies yet. You haven't even taken out the flour out of the pantry for it. And then you have this noir detective element with Obi-Wan being like, "Why is Kamino not in the library?" And the librarian goes, "Fuck you, it's a library. We don't keep that shit on record. If it's not there, it doesn't exist." And that kind of leads to nowhere. Then you have, an old retired Jedi Master's leading the Separatist movement. That's interesting. That'd be really great commentary on the Jedi at large in the modern Republic. Then nothing goes really far with that until you get into like the Clone Wars animated series. And like even with all of that, it still tries to force down your throat that George Lucas at that point in time thought he was capable of making a movie with all these different stakes and all these different like flavors of pie and throw them together in one film and sell it to you like it was a complete product, when it was just woefully not prepared in any way, shape, or form.
Like I said in the back before this, it's like he has a great overarching idea. Let's show how Darth Vader became Darth Vader.
And then throughout all three films, and even in particular the second one, not do that very well.
Yeah, I think the Clone Wars television show does a great job of it, actually. But that was years after Revenge of the Sith, and it's a slow burn. You're seeing like Anakin, what happens when he thinks Obi-Wan's dead, and then Ahsoka gets exiled, and you see the things he goes to protect Padme. Whereas in Attack of the Clones, there is that powerful scene where he kills all the Tusken Raiders or whatever, but it's a blink of the eye. And he has that moment with Padme, and then it's over, and then we're back to roaring adventure, Flash Gordon-y style fun times. We got to go to the Gladiator Ring and do this stuff and have a wacky adventure in this droid factory. And it feels like two different movies. It feels like it doesn't belong.
It is exactly that. It is two different movies running simultaneously, which can work. It can work as its own thing.
I've seen it before.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even argue Empire is like that, because there's the Luke movie and then there's the Leia and Han movie, and then they kind of come together at the end.
But that was also with a director that was competent at what they were doing when George Lucas was focusing on production and had his writing partner writing the script with the director.
Exactly.
Yes.
Also, I can see in the Discord that a wild Torque has appeared.
Hello.
I don't.
Hello, just stopping by.
Hello. You've walked onto the set of a Distracted podcast. We're talking about Star Wars: Attack of the Clones. Have you any opinion on that, Torque?
Well, I have not watched the series yet, except for the first 2 episodes. I did enjoy it. I plan on watching the rest of the series.
We're talking about the movie Attack of the Clones, episode 2, not the Clone Wars animated series, which is arguably a better storytelling thread for Darth Vader.
I would say.
No, I'm sorry. There were only 3 Star Wars movies, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh no!
Okay, so there you go. That's a fair enough opinion.
I don't know. I might have a problem with Torque here in the future.
This has become a
There's only
lovely
5 Star Wars movies. Come on.
Star Wars fans are an eclectic bunch. There are people who want to love the prequels, people who hate them, people who want them just to pretend they don't exist.
We can all agree that Attack of the Clones is better than the original holiday special, right?
I can agree with
I
that.
mean, when it comes to handling the characters, I'd say they're both on par with each other. But when it comes to actual production value, Attack of the Clones definitely has a lot
Got a
of
better story,
has
too.
yeah. There's no Wookiee VR porn.
Right, exactly.
That is
There are
a
things
point
there.
in the holiday special's favor.
There
No,
are things there. Like
no.
I like Jango Fett. I think Jango Fett's a really interesting
Okay,
character. I like making Boba Fett a clone because I like the idea that the clones are Mandos essentially. You know, I like those things.
I don't agree with that. And also, Jango Fett's a foundling. That is the new canon. He is a foundling, so he was never actually a true Mando.
Well, I would
by
say
blood.
that is up for debate on purpose. Like, because being a foundling, you know, whether or not that makes you a true Mandalorian is kind of the purpose of
Well,
the show, The
only-
Mandalorian. Is Din
the only reason
not a
he's
Mandalorian?
The only reason he's considered that they made him a foundling was because of the Clone Wars, where they were like, Jango Fett's not a Mandalorian from a pure-blooded Mando.
Yeah.
Like,
And
Yeah,
then
that was Almec. But I interpret it as Almec essentially being, you know, prejudice, essentially saying like, well, he doesn't count because he wasn't, you know, on the right side, and he's a foundling, and we don't do that no more, essentially.
they don't do that no more.
foundlings
Yeah.
are cringe.
I mean, to be fair, the Watch is a cult.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is that being a Mando means different things to different people, you know.
Yeah.
So like Boba Fett himself might not Boba Fett, not Jango Fett, might he might not consider himself a Mando, but someone else might actually consider him a Mando. It really depends on perspective and who
Well,
you are in the galaxy.
Considering Bo-Katan basically said he's not a Mando, and he's like, I never said I was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Bo-Katan, I think, is the authority on who is actually a real
I
Mando.
don't know. She
Well,
can't.
I
She
don't
can't.
know.
She can't keep a hold of that dark saber very well over the span of 30 years.
I don't
mean,
know if there is an authority necessarily. I think
I
it's
mean,
just-
like,
That's
if
for
there,
sure.
if there was one, it would be the
That's
the
Here's my
rightful
thing.
ruler of
that's,
Mandalore.
that's
here's-
just been her character. This
Also,
entire time.
rightful is a very strong word because technically, for all intents and purposes, in Mandalorian culture, there's never really been a rightful ruler because it's a right is might sort of culture.
Yeah, well, again, that's when you go back into the old Republic, which is basically when there was a figure that was called Mandalore that was always the leader, and he was proven to be the leader because he was the strongest amongst them.
Yeah.
Then we had the fallout of the Mandalorian culture and becoming basically a subsidized company. Basically, that's what it came down to, is that it became a subsidized company of the Republic and lost, and a lot of their prior. Should we call them prejudices?
Yeah.
Prejudice?
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's the word I used.
Yeah.
I would say got lost over a few millennia, and then we have the culture coming back to its roots, basically. With the foundlings, with the Mandalorian TV series, they've expanded upon that. They opened the doors with
Thank
Jango
you, baby.
Boba Fett, but like a lot of people then got into the lore, into all the books, and then Disney was like, half of them don't matter. So it's really difficult to say where the lore actually resides. It looks like right now Disney wants it to be back to roots, which would kind of make a lot of continuity sense, since they're still saying that they're up in the air about KOTOR 1 and 2 being canonized.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like comic reboots, where it's like the universe is rebooted, but every now and then they'll pull from a story. Like no matter how many times they reboot the DC universe, the Killing Joke is just there, and it always will be, and it's never going to get erased. Even though there's nothing that actually, the book was written to me non-canon, but me and CJ talked about this the other day. At the end of the day, all canon is, like, what decides whether something is canon is the fandom. At the end of the day, you know.
Yeah.
Again,
like,
which is why the whole debate of well, Disney can say it's non-canon, but I'm still going to consider it canon. It comes into play.
Yeah.
And it's just basically like, what group is going to be larger is going to be the one that wins, because guess what? We don't have guns to decide this. We have just popular vote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think like a really good point that was made with all of this, like especially in regards to Mandalorian, because we're already getting off on a big fucking tangent.
Yeah.
I think a big theme of the Mandalorian as a show, which we can tie back to Django to get back on track with Attack of the Clones, is the whole question of the show is what does it mean to be Mandalorian? Is it the fact that you are a pure-blooded Mandalorian, or if you were founded by or you're a foundling found by somebody who is a Mandalorian? Because Jango being a foundling, for all intents and purposes in traditional Mando culture, makes him a Mandalorian, because the Mandalorians weren't native to the planet that they were on, and the original Mandalorians died out well before the Mandalorian Wars and KOTOR canon.
Yeah.
So
You're free to say he's not, in the same way that Almec is free to say it. My only thing is the show is called The Mandalorian, and the star of the show is Din, who is a foundling.
yeah, and I'm not saying it's a point against foundlings being Mandalorians. I'm saying that when you have people who are pure-blooded Mandalorians saying that other people who are descended of foundlings or clones of foundlings, and they call them not Mandalorians, it brings into the question of birthright as a big factor in theme that is probably going to be explored in the next season, especially when it comes to the conflict of the Darksaber and whether or not what makes you Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorians. Is it the Darksaber, or is it the fact that you are trying to restore your culture? What makes you the redeemer of the Mandalorians as a whole? Is it the symbol, or is it the thing?
Before we get back on topic, I just want to gauge the room here, because I honestly don't know the answer to this question either. Would Maul technically be a Mandalore?
All right, so when he first conquered the Darksaber, he could then have gone to the Mandalorian culture and said, "I am king, hear me roar," and someone would probably challenge him to it. But as long as he conquered the challenge, and frankly, being a Force-using Darksaber wielder, he probably would. Yes, he could then have been the rightful heir to the Mandalorian throne. However, because he lost his Darksaber, he doesn't follow the culture. He follows Sith culture, which is not completely different. Which is why we had the Sith and the Mandalorians at one point team up to fight the Jedi go 4,000 years. So what it ties into is actually the point I wanted to make, is that Sith culture is more or less entropy magic.
Right.
For those that are more concerned about more, I suppose, realistic times. I'm not going to get into that subject. Point is it's about demoralizing your enemy and never showing weakness. It's not entirely a bad idea as long as you use it properly, and which is why we saw, the Emperor exists for as long as he did, because he wasn't going for self-destruction. He was going for destruction of everyone else, and morally beating them down, which is how he had the Empire that lasted for as long as it did, and how it became such a big thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Being Sith is like being amoral, because Palpatine says something along the lines of that in the novelization. It's like, the Sith aren't evil. We just don't subscribe to morality.
Yeah. Whereas we look at Mandalorian culture, which as a whole, because this is the Mandalorian culture is as factioned as, well, let's say the Warhammer universe, which we will not tangent into because that is another podcast.
Yes, that is.
It is as factioned as to what the primary beliefs are, but as a whole, I would say that Mandalorian culture is about survival of the fittest and that the strongest will rule, which lines up with Sith belief about 60% to 80%. Right?
Because it starts to fall apart a little bit when the succession, when the Honorer comes back into it, right? But it does. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, Mandalorians will not beat you down if you're not at your A game, and they find the challenge of overcoming you at your strongest to be the best. Which again, we'll tangent into another subject slightly with DBZ. It's literally saying culture.
Yeah.
For a more popular reference.
Yeah, that warrior race kind of
mentality. So we saw that in Old Republic, and we're seeing it kind of come along that lines, I think, with Mandalorian, of it being survival of the fittest, whoever's the strongest, etc. We're just kind of now trying to piece the gaps between what happened that caused the Mandalorian society to become what it currently is, as opposed to the I don't know what 1/4 of the galaxy-sized entity it used to be.
Yeah, because like
Something like that.
a really big narrative point with the Mandalorian now is with Bo-Katan Kryze coming back into the story, is that she was sister to Satine, who was a part of like the neutrality democratic movement for Mandalore, to make them less warrior culture and modernize them and bring them into the modern era of the Galactic Republic. And then you had Pre Vizsla coming in with the traditionalist Mandalorians and bringing back the Death Watch in the Clone Wars cartoon, and like it's a basically progress versus like traditionalism narrative, and I feel like that's a really big point that I think might get thrown across at Bo-Katan, because she's like, oh, I'm going to use what people recognize as a traditional symbol as somebody who fought against progress, but who is also trying to throw progress in with traditionalism. And I think what may happen with that is that Din is the true progress, not Bo-Katan. We might
Possibly, yeah.
Because I think they're doing her a little bit dirty, and you saw it a little bit in the animated like films. From what I recall, she was kind of the person that at first opposed her sister.
Yes.
In a way, but it wasn't so far as to be complete opposition. She wanted the middle ground, and at first, you're like, all right, she's kind of just a bitch, kind of, right?
She did start out antagonistic in the Clone Wars until Satine dies, and then the Death Watch happens, and then she sees Maul, and she kind of has a slight turn of heart, not to the point where she's like peace and love and all that, but she doesn't like the idea that Maul is the leader.
Yeah, they did her dirty. She became like kind of like the anti-hero of this movement, and at first you're like, all right, well, it's if you look at it again at base Mandalorian culture, it's survival of the strongest, survival of the fittest, and that's what she's like. I'm not gonna say doing really well, because she seems to get kicked around a lot, but she's still surviving.
Yeah,
right.
But like being a survivor doesn't mean you're absolutely fit or you're the strongest out of all the survivors.
Which is why at the end of the Mandalorian season 2, she doesn't rise to the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something happened between the end of Rebels and Mandalorian that made her question the fact that she could just be given.
It's already been said that Mandalore is cursed, the planet.
Yeah.
So like, we should get back to the main plot of the podcast here, because we just went on like a good 15-minute tangent on the Mandalorian, which is really good Star Wars content compared to the atrocity that is Attack of the Clones.
I have a decent bridge. Something I want to get into is one thing I like actually about the prequels is the idea that Anakin has to keep his romance secret, because that's interesting to me, and it also shows you like some hypocrisy to the Jedi. And I also enjoy that in the Clone Wars we find out that Obi-Wan knew the whole time. It's implied in Revenge of the Sith, but it's overtly stated that Obi-Wan knew about Anakin and Padme, and that's interesting because it's like, oh well, is Obi-Wan a hypocrite? And it's like, not really, because he also had a relationship that he wasn't supposed to with Satine, and to me anyway, I would have really enjoyed to see that the relationship Obi-Wan and Satine had to be kind of what Anakin and Padme had in the prequel movies, instead of this like awesome blossoming romance that happened on this perfect planet and they got together and like everything's fine and perfect, and until she dies essentially. That there was more tension on Anakin's side to leave her to be a true Jedi, to follow the path that was laid out for him. Whereas, go ahead, I'm done.
I say my point. Not to interrupt you during this. My point was that they kind of do draw a similarity. It's just that Obi-Wan's result was kind of more of the let's be neutral about the fact that I just destroyed a world and entire belief system, basically, and it's because my dick got hard to one person. Whereas Anakin's like, I'm going to create an empire to basically promote racism throughout the galaxy because you decide to, cheat on me with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, which was built on a false assumption too.
which
And-
was
Yeah.
built on all false assumptions, and then he decided to have his ultimatum be his and away, which is an entire like relationship problematic that I think that we've all seen before.
Yeah.
And
Including
I wish
the viewers, all 6 of them.
I wish they built that
7 now,
into-
motherfucker.
7? It says 6.
It says 7 now on my end. I have the live feed up on my computer because I don't have to manage a camera. So,
I have a question for you guys about the whole Padme Anakin love arc.
Yeah,
Sure.
Got you.
Let's go back to the Phantom Menace. He's 8 years old. She's obviously an adult in charge of a whole planet.
she's 14, but that's still creepy.
Yeah, 14 or
Yeah.
16.
Now let's go to the next movie where he's an adult and she's an adulter, and now they're the mother son kind of thing they had going on in the Phantom Menace now is kind of creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. If you don't mind, I really think that Attack of the Clones would have benefited from a very simple scene in which Padme confides into someone else about how she feels about Anakin, which way it is that she feels, because as it is, it comes across incredibly manipulative on either of their ends, and that's a huge problem.
So I'm gonna cut in here, and
Yeah.
I will state, not looking to excuse how creepy it appears and feels.
Mhm.
The last time Anakin and Padme had seen each other before Attack of the Clones
Mhm.
was at the end of Phantom Menace.
Mhm.
It had been that 10-year-ish gap from the last time they saw each other. So Padme went from I knew this kid to I know that I haven't seen this person since they were a kid. That's very different. It's less creepy when you take into account they haven't seen each other for 10 years. So outside of Anakin, being like, I've always dreamt about you, which was 100% George Lucas can't write worth of shit. Especially romance.
Yeah, but as
Especially
an
romance.
outsider who hasn't seen the in-between parts,
Right.
you don't get that they haven't seen each other in 10 years. You get the feeling they've been together the whole time.
So they actually stayed as much.
yeah, I
in the
just
movie.
I just
In the
looked up
movie,
the I looked up the script portion as well as just confirmed with Google just to make sure it is set. Attack of the Clones is set 10 years after the events of Phantom Menace, and in the film, in the turbo lift, Anakin does say to Obi-Wan, "I haven't seen her in 10 years." And it's
Yeah,
just like,
he
you are
straight
totally not 18,
I
sir.
know what you're both saying.
he straight up says in the movie, so you don't need any in between, any comics, anything like that. Though you do have the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic, which was a fantastic read. It has Anakin as a Padawan up until Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
And I believe it goes further. I haven't read them all. It's been a while.
I don't remember. I would argue
But
that
it was a good read. And at least in Padme's defense specifically, she hasn't seen this kid or probably thought about this kid
okay.
in 9 years, at least. She hasn't thought about him in 9 years. Because she went, I have a planet to run. Okay, I'm now up for re-election. We're going to elect a new queen, and now I'm a senator. I have a planet to run. I don't have time to think about some kid who I hope is okay. That's all she probably had a thought on was, I hope he's okay.
I actually think you're both right. I think that.
And I'm gonna throw the curveball.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to stay quiet
So-
until I can state my opinion because I love listening to all of this. This is what podcasting is.
So after the prequels came out, there was a bunch of books that dedicated to the 10-year gap, and throughout the 10-year gap, he has made contact with Padme at least once during each of the books.
So all of those books have
Is
been
this legends?
canon. They are legends now.
They are legends now, so it's like, again, it's the debate that we're back to of what is truly canon and what is not.
Well, it's legend, so some of it is canon. There's a core.
So here's the answer to that. At this time, the property owners of Star Wars are Disney. What they have deemed as canon are the movies,
Yep.
the
Clone Wars.
novelizations of the movies,
Yep.
and that's it outside of what they created.
Yep.
There's Clone Wars too. Clone
well,
Wars counts.
Sorry, I keep they because they've created part of Clone Wars, i.e. the final season. My mind automatically includes Clone Wars on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough.
So one of the people who is listening to us, unfortunately, Twitch chat is being stupid.
Yeah,
brings
mine
up-
too.
He brings up that it can still be looked at as very creepy that they both lead sheltered lives where there's minimal contact with other people their age, let alone people of their species. And
Yeah.
I'm going to contradict that with outside, at least for Anakin, he was brought up with Padawan learners, and he spent a good deal of time in the canon through the official comic books that they have released, which are Disney property and have been coming out by them still, so they are canon. That he has been around humans his age and older. It's just he skipped out on the minimal early training that you see in Attack of the Clones with Yoda teaching the younglings, and further developed in the Clone Wars where they first get their first lightsaber.
Okay, so he's kind of like a
Anakin does
transfer
have-
student.
Kind of, yeah. He is kind of like a transfer student. Anakin does have contact with people his age. Of course, unfortunately for him, he's got the chosen one stigma, so he is a little more sheltered on that end, but it is not as bad as it may seem. And Padme Amidala, she's 14. She's the queen. She grew up as a semi-normal person, I would assume. We don't have too much on her backstory.
All
I
we
think that's fair
all,
to say.
all we really know is like the context clues that are tied to Naboo culture, as far as like the human part of the Naboo culture, where they
But we
choose.
do know she's exposed to her own people, and,
Yeah.
and both male and female, as you see in episode 1, she's got plenty of men around her who are adults and are her advisors, as well as her handmaidens. So she's got
Plus
the
there was
binary
talk.
genders in there.
Plus, there
Yep.
was the little romance scene with them on the fields where she does go into her school life a little bit.
We used to
And
to
in
come
the
to
Clone
this.
Wars.
We used to go to a monastery school in the countryside, and there was this boy that I had a crush on.
Oh
and,
yeah.
Yeah, that-
George Lucas, stop writing.
Don't forget there's an entire episode or two in the Clone Wars dedicated to Anakin's jealousy over Padme's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, and I actually think that kind of thing would have helped this movie out in particular.
And it
the
did.
romance
It
is
did
dope.
in hindsight. It did.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
hindsight.
Absolutely.
But of course, again, the movie was bad because it was written as it was, without the Clone Wars in mind. Because George Lucas, while he definitely had final say on certain things, most things, that was all Dave Filoni's brainchild.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was his baby. He just went to George for like final approval. Like,
Yep.
hey, can I fuck with this?
Yeah, you could.
Can
tell
I
where George
improve your
Lucas'
writing,
hand-
sir?
You know, because even when Dave has to do the George Lucas things, he always gives himself an out. Like when Almec says, "Oh, Django's not a Mandalorian," he made sure that he made a shady character who is an asshole say that. That way, he could in 10 years make the Mandalorian episode where Boba says that no, he's full of shit or whatever. So you can always tell, like when they call Moraband instead of Korriban or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
What I will say though, as far as the whole Padme Anakin like relationship thing being very cringy, I think a lot of that in the film is tied to the original writing and the direction that is given to the actors.
I blame the CGI pair 100% for almost everything around that relationship.
He could have just fucking. He could have just fucking.
That was bad
Fastball
for its
special that
time.
bitch. Like just fucking catch. Gets hit in the
God.
face with a
Like,
pear.
Like that pair was bad CG for the time it came out. It
Yeah.
was like 90s CG.
It's
you know?
badly shot too. Like you could make
It is.
something like that work if with a certain like angle and lighting and stuff, and not with like a flat soap opera set. Like it doesn't. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. So
And I like the core
Listen.
relationship.
Listen, that was the best CGI of George Lucas's career that you're insulting him.
The bear.
I don't know, the bubble opera show I would argue is better than that in Revenge of the Sith, but we're not talking about Revenge of the Sith. We're talking about Attack of the Clones, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
get into it.
There is
The Muppets CGI was better than the freaking Attack of the Clones CGI. Spoiler right there.
I need everybody to know.
So the
the
clone
pair-
armor was fantastic for its time.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was actually really good.
So,
Yeah,
not a single suit of clone armor was made for Attack of the Clones.
Nope.
It was 100% CGI.
Because they didn't want to get a bunch of extras that had the similar body type to Tamara Morrison.
yep.
It was
No
too
clone
expensive. Even though, when you look at the Lord of the Rings trilogy, they got a bunch of fucking Kiwi extras to fill in the gaps, and then they use CGI to enhance the conventional effects and the people that they had available
The real
for close-up
reason-
shots.
The real reason is George Lucas is lazy.
I know, we already know that. I'm trying to give a few more excuses for him. However, there is no excuse for George Lucas.
You
Just-
can definitely use them.
Anyways, I think
Just remember, no clone was heard during filmmaking.
Exactly.
But the dialogue itself is really where the Clone Wars suffers the most.
Yeah.
We all joke.
Attack of the
Everyone
Clones,
who's ever seen a Star Wars movie jokes. I don't like sand. It's coarse. It's rough. It's irritating.
So just the briefest like 2-minute tangent on my part. The meme economy for the prequel trilogy is great. The meme economy for Attack of the Clones specifically, I think, is a mark on how bad of a movie it is. But it's like the cringe level on the internet that is like it's hilarious cringe
I think
because
there's actually
of
something to say
sand.
about that. Like the memes helped make the movies better. I think it helped make it more culturally accepted.
Which I guess to tie it back to what we were talking about before the stream, how there's sort of two sides to how movies can be viewed now. They can be changed with content that's around the subject or context film or media, and the further production of other things. So like for Attack of the Clones to be a little bit better in hindsight in certain parts, but overall still bad, the Clone Wars animated series is a markedly better product because it actually goes into the Clone Wars. You see a war, and you see the development of Anakin Skywalker from being a Padawan learner to a Jedi Knight on the make, and rushed through his knight trial because of the war that's going on, because they need more Jedi generals and commanders on the battlefield, and that's a major plot point in the entire series, as well as like even before Dave Filoni blessing us with the Clone Wars series, we also had the badass two different animated StarArs Clone Wars animated features on.
There's a podcast.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast, but I'm just saying, like that did the same thing that the Clone Wars animated series did, but the Clone Wars animated series had the blessing of having long form narrative and time to improve character.
Yes.
So-
It have that.
I also think Ahsoka is such a good thing about the Clone Wars television show. Giving Anakin an apprentice is helpful to see his downfall because
She
you
grew
rip
on
her
me
away.
quite a bit. Unfortunately, so the biggest problem I have with the Clone Wars animated series existing is when you finally get to the point where, and this is Revenge of the Sith, of course, which is post Clone Wars, because you know,
It's the end of it, yeah.
well, the scene in particular is after the finale of Clone Wars.
Well, the thing is that Siege of Mandalore happens concurrently with Revenge of the Sith, like literally the exact same time.
The scene I'm talking about, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it's before Order 66, technically. The scene I'm about to get into is Anakin's the whole thing with Anakin not getting made into a master while being put on the council.
Yes.
After seeing the Clone Wars and all he did in the Clone Wars,
yes.
like, yeah, sure, he had attitude, but like that could still be worked with.
Yeah, and
They were answering to him like he was their equal, not a knight, but a master on the council throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And then, like, and Mace Windu's character with him in the animated Clone Wars was very trusting and whatnot, especially when they killed Obi-Wan for that one episode. And, like, they let Anakin go and do to keep up the story.
I think I see what you're getting at. I get your point, and it's
Like,
definitely a
in
fair
hindsight, it ruined the whole reasoning behind Mace Windu's like, no, we don't give you the rank of master because Palpatine wanted you on the council. It's like, you should have, if they had just given it to him and, you know, brought him in on everything.
Yeah.
At that point, as soon as you hear have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Yeah.
He's dead. Palpatine is murdered on the spot by Anakin, who reacts as he should to a Sith Lord as a Jedi Master.
You know,
So
I
think
I see your point. I think I agree mostly, but the part where, for me, it's almost like I agree with all of that because I take away a different interpretation. I think it makes that scene better because it makes it's obvious that Mace Windu is making a mistake. Like the Jedi are being dumb.
So
that's the thing.
Also,
I'll be the other side of the fence here.
Yeah.
So the rank of master isn't about like combat. Like the whole entire concept of Jedi isn't combat based. So while we see Anakin provide like a lot of force combat abilities, they're not gonna award someone the rank of master because of that. I agree from a standpoint it proves that he's strong in the force, that he's very capable both at making decisions and whatnot. But you also got to consider like he's at this point in time frame. It's what 26 in Revenge of the Sith.
So,
he's in
I
his
will.
20s.
I will.
23?
He's in his 20s. So it's like you have someone who barely is an adult and just gained the rank of Jedi Knight.
Oh wow,
recently.
he's 22 in Revenge.
Yeah, yeah. So he just gained rank of Jedi Knight, as we know from the Clone Wars.
So
he just gained that. So so like to be like, all right, within a year you're now a Jedi Master. It's really fast. And while he has a lot of achievements under his belt, it's kind of like from the standpoint of people who are like, you know, on the council at like when they're 40, when they're 50, it's kind of like it's a very rushed and new thing. So we have that standpoint. And
that does make sense. I still think it's a mistake, though.
We
so
also have the standpoint of the only reason why you're in the council room right now during the debate is because
of Palpatine.
Because Palpatine. So it's like we already know that there's a Dark Lord around. We just don't know where he is, and he could be influencing Palpatine. Is a thought process I'm sure that the council has thought of.
I'm going to quote Obi-Wan here real quick and go, is he not the chosen one?
Yeah, that's
so the prophecy states.
That's the prophecy. He's the chosen one.
Prophecy that misread may have been.
Yeah.
Still,
so
he's proven himself over and over again.
Assigning him the rank of master makes sense if you look at it from a standpoint outside of the Clone Wars, outside of the Jedi dogma. Look at other religions.
Jedi dogma is kind of the reason of the fall, you know. And I think at the end of the day, if Mace Windu would have just trusted Anakin, he could have prevented the fall of the Republic.
So here's the thing I will state as far as into this part of the conversation in regards to like Anakin's character arc. And like that scene in general and how it ties back to the final season of the Clone Wars. I see your point, Joe, and I see both Alec and Josh's side of things. I think the big takeaway of it is that the entire point of the Clone Wars, in which you particularly see the more positive reaction to the the conservative traditionalist views of the Jedi, Ahsoka, because Ahsoka looks at everything in the final season, and like arguably the last 3 seasons of the Clone Wars, looks at the actions of the Jedi Council and the Order as a whole as very problematic, because Anakin has proven himself as a Jedi Knight in particular, especially with his combat prowess, but he has proven himself to be a leader and to be wise, leading the 501st up to that point. And like the big divide is that in the lore, the Jedi used to fight alongside the Republic, and then they stopped before the Mandalorian War. Then Revan goes back into that militarism for the Jedi by having all of his outcasts go and fight for the Republic. Then the rest of the Order follows suit, because they see that they cannot be neutral in this endeavor, because they have to fight to protect the Republic and everything that they've decided to hold dear and to protect. Then you have later on with like the Darth Bane novels, you have the Army of Light against the Brotherhood of Darkness, and you have one Jedi cutting against the grain and going, we need to be militaristic again, and literally launch a private army campaign against the Brotherhood of Darkness that both the Republic and the Jedi Order eventually back, because they realize in the long run, in the long term, this is the best thing for them to do at that time. The Clone Wars only lasted 3 years. The Jedi hadn't reached that point in the Order for all of them to go, we need to start awarding the merit of these young Jedi, because they're giving so much of themselves and their lives to this cause, that maybe we need to repeal some of these acts that that have been sort of put on us between the Republic and our predecessors, that are currently choking us to death, because we can't be as efficient as we used to be, because we are so a part of this dogmatic philosophy of we are only diplomats, we cannot fight. But now we have been leading a war on the front lines, and in even some like special forces instances, when you look at some of the Jedi that are outside of the Council and are more along the lines of Qui-Gon Jinn's philosophy of like the living force and not like the force as the Jedi see it, being on the outside of everything and doing these things that could be considered atrocities to the Jedi, but are considered like tactical necessities to the Republic. So the fact that when Mace Windu says you're on this council but you are not granted the rank of master, that also kind of ties back to him and his and Anakin's attempt at using Mace Windu's form of lightsaber combat, which feeds off the dark side of the person you're fighting in order to improve your force capabilities and your ability with the saber. Because Anakin lacked the training that younglings get, where they become emotionally detached from their parents and from everything that they came from. Anakin never had that weaning process at all. So, like, Anakin's already on a crutch, and I think, despite the trust that Mace gives him in regard to, like, the war, he cannot trust him in the sense of true wisdom in the way that the Jedi Council requires masters to have, even just in order to be considered a candidate to be put forth on the council. So like I think it works in favor and against a Mace Windu in that case, but like Mace Windu's apprentice mastered the form and then betrayed him, and he was leery about training anyone else in I think it was Form 7 specifically. Yeah, Form 7. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Anakin almost did it and he saw a little bit of that dark side, if they placed that event somewhere within the timeline of between the second or third to last season of the Clone Wars and episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, then that brings a lot of good context to why Mace Windu's kind of acting like a dick in Revenge of the Sith.
I do have a question, seeing how I forced myself onto your podcast.
It's perfectly
about
fine.
The whole master thing. In now in the movie, we do not grant you the rank of master. However, in either the first or second episode of the animated series, Palpatine refers to him as Master Skywalker, and none of the other Jedi Council corrects him.
It's because it's considered a traditional honorific given to Jedi, and it even happens in Attack of the Clones when they're on Naboo, when one of the counselors from the previous film, who's now counselor to the sitting Queen of Naboo, goes, "Master Jedi, what do you think?" And when Anakin goes to give his opinion, Padme is like, "Oh no, he's not a master; he's still a Padawan learner." So
it's like the same stigma that is about the honorific for doctor. Like, except for the fact that, like, in this case, you don't have to have your doctorate to be considered a doctor. It's the fact that you've chosen this path. I would liken it actually probably more to the, like, Reverend.
Yeah,
I would also
Still-
argue that Palpatine's doing it on purpose. He knows it's just an honorific, but at the same time, he knows that he's appealing to Anakin's pride by
Yeah.
calling him master.
At that point, is he Ahsoka's master yet?
He is.
yeah. In the second,
There you go.
because then because
Technically, the title of master isn't a master of the council, a Jedi master, so much as it is a Jedi teacher.
yeah, it's sort of like how anyone who is a teacher in the Jewish faith is called a rabbi. It's not like in any other
That doesn't
Judeo-Christian.
necessarily make them a religious leader in the church.
It's just the title that's given somebody who is a teacher within that faith.
Because
Realistically,
he has Osaka as his Padawan right now, so that would make sense then.
Yeah,
Yep.
It-
He's
but
not a
it's still
Padawan, then he is technically a master, but he's not a master of the council.
yeah. But so it would be a dual statement though. It'd be double edged. It'd be like the Jedi might see this as me calling you a master as in a teacher, but really I'm feeding your ego and your pride, so that way by the time I'm able to turn you, you see that I've already laid the groundwork for me to be able to go in and convince you that like the best option is to commit jedicide. So
That makes sense to me, because that was kind of nibbling at me for a little while now.
yeah,
realistically, the term master in both the Sith and Jedi religion is thrown around a lot. It is both the rank, it is both a teacher, and it is both what is referred to by outside the order as
Yeah.
Jedi. So it's really tough to tell whether the person's actually like a master, or whether it's Sith or Jedi, or actually a teacher, or actually has that rank. Again, it's continuity errors throughout the entire script, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Similarly, like for instance, I know CJ, you touched upon like the Old Republic, like the whole war. Like on one hand, it's like Reverend rose to the challenge to support past militaristic views on an enemy that's outside of it. However, the reason why, for instance, the council was so split on doing that or not is because they foresaw the Sith Empire where Darth Bane came from.
yeah,
So there was a whole bunch of background information, but because Revan and Malik and the others chose to rise to the immediate threat, it's not exactly a bad opinion, but because they chose it, it kind of sped it up.
Yeah, it becomes a narrative of self-fulfilling prophecy at that point, because that's basically
Right.
everything in the Old Republic is someone makes a decision, it fulfills a prophecy. Like as like just a gentle tangent about that, like a big thing that happens between the Darth Bane novels and the prequel trilogy is that there's this group of Jedi that decide to kill a group of younglings because they foresee the rise of Darth Vader and they assume that's going to be one of their Padawans, and they in turn create a powerful Sith, a powerful dark Jedi out of that genocide, and almost destroy the Order before it's renewed with the very conservative values that it has come the prequel trilogy. So like,
you ever play that game Jax, where you toss a ball on the ground, pick up as many
yeah,
Jax
that's
as you can?
prophecy in the Star Wars universe.
That's prophecy. Except every single time you go to pick up more, you drop more.
Yeah, exactly. So if we can pivot
Okay.
and bridge it back to the topic at hand, unless you have a final point, Joe.
I just wanted to ask on the topic of Jedi Master, is that why Anakin murdered all the younglings? That one kid was like, Master Skywalker's like, how fucking dare you?
So that's honestly a legit theory. Is that if that youngling didn't say Master Skywalker and threw it back in his face like that, if he's like,
Would he have killed the
Well,
kid?
so
Anakin,
He already has.
I forget. It did. I know that now Ahsoka was known to be his student, but was the Clone Wars out
No.
before or after the Revenge?
It was
Well-
after the
well
entirety of the
after.
movie.
So the continuity error here is because we never saw Anakin actually referred to as a master.
also to a youngling, any Jedi past youngling and Padawan rank is considered a master in regards to
So
He was
honorific.
the Jedi Knight, but
So
anyone could
so
be
him
a
him being referred to as Master Skywalker
Is
makes
Teacher
a lot of
Skywalker.
sense with continuity, but in just the film, it's literally just an insult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like, "Oh, I may have let you
It's
live."
not so much as it's a trigger.
Yeah.
How dare you? Only Palpatine can call me Master.
Well, if you look at it in the terms of, say, like martial arts, your ultimate sensei is the 10th Dan black belt, but if a brown belt is teaching you, he is still your sensei.
Yeah. That's the context now, but in the film initially, before any of the further content was created in order to make it better in hindsight, it's sort of in that instance because his lightsaber isn't on when he enters the council chambers because he's expecting not to find anybody, but he sees the younglings are there, and then that one youngling goes, "Master Skywalker, there are too many of them, what are we going to do?" And then you see the sadness and rage in his eyes, like, "You called me master, I was denied that title in this very room." Turns on lightsaber, murders children, like...
Yeah.
What
Except
did you just
Grogu.
call me?
Grogu was busy hiding somewhere else.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that right now. We gotta get back.
talking
We
about?
gotta get back to the point. We're an hour and 5 minutes, and we haven't even got back to the point.
No, we're not
We're
pausing.
just gonna touch on it. He escaped on the same tunnel got in with. That's how that entire thing is. That's why Yoda know.
But
knew
that
where
was
it
that was
That's
the Senate building, not the Jedi Temple.
Listen, Senate building, Jedi Temple. They're both the same place. It's fine.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
They're
yes,
separate.
it is.
They're
All
separate
right,
locations.
no, stop. All right, let's be real here. And let's get back on
Continuity
focus.
errors.
No,
Let's get
it's
back on
not
focus.
though.
I know it's not. That's why.
Plot magic.
Fuck you, Josh. So
Attack of the
mean-
Clones.
So
Um,
I guess the primary point and the point of the conversation, to roll it all the way back to the beginning for y'all motherfuckers.
30 minutes ago.
No, it's been an hour and 6 minutes. We've been on tangents for about 45 minutes.
We're so
Um,
good
welcome
at
to
staying on
Star
topic.
Wars.
it's
Welcome to Star
a
Wars.
distracted podcast is a great title now.
Yeah.
So Alec and I pitched it mostly to Alec just to sort of bounce the idea off of him. How do you improve and hone and refine the themes that Attack of the Clones wanted to cover? It wanted to cover politics to continue the political themes of Phantom Menace, which I think they were soft boiled and they could have been refined a little bit more, but you get the point across in that film. As boring as it is,
Politics.
yeah. As boring as that film is, a majority of it is tied to politics. You only get a little bit of it in Attack of the Clones, but it's like it's so undercooked it's not even worth talking about. And I think that's an important thing to refine a little bit more to make context for the end of the film be a little bit more tragic and like self-fulfilling. You also have the whole romance subplot between Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala. I think you can improve upon that by making it more of a by making it more of a slow burn, slow grow romance instead of it being like, oh, they kiss romantically with the love theme from the prequels playing as they are marched out to the killing field of a arena on Geonosis, and you also have the noir mystery subplot with Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Saber Dart Kamino and Jango Fett. Those three things combine into the main story plot of the Separatist movement being the central point of the entire story for Attack of the Clones. You don't get a whole lot about the Separatist movement until you're on Geonosis, and then you discover like it's another evil organization. Whereas like in Attack of the Clones, there are heroes on both sides. Until the Clone Wars animated series, there's heroes on both sides. There are people who are convinced that they're doing the right thing. Then there are those who are in the shadows controlling everything. And that's the thing that's happening on both sides, both in the Galactic Republic and in the Separatist worlds and the CIS. So
I think the
first
key word
off-
is context. Context is what this movie really needed.
yeah,
First things first. How to correct the movie as a whole?
Delete it.
No.
Well, so they did. They created the Clone Wars anime series.
it comes
There's
after
a-
Attack of the Clones. It
There's
doesn't.
a lot. There's
it's
a lot
a-
that didn't happen before Episode 2 that I think, in between the 10 years, I think one of the things we brought up was, wouldn't it have been interesting to see Sefu Deus actually order the clones and then be murdered by a mysterious Force user with a red
Yeah,
lightsaber? And
so I think let's
Dooku
talk
100%
first.
needed more screen time to be developed as a character,
Which is
and and to improve Attack of the Clones, so that and even without changing it, changing another thing would be not killing him 5 minutes into Revenge of the Sith.
That would probably help.
I think so. To sort of get into it, the focal point of the Separatist movement, I think the biggest mystery of all has to be what kind of character Dooku is for the film. If you're going to make him the antagonist and not necessarily the villain, what would make him a good antagonist? So like I pitched to Alec the other day. What if instead of opening up to the assassination attempt of Senator Amidala on Coruscant, what if you opened up with after the events of the Phantom Menace, you have Sifo Dyas escaping on his ship from some mysterious from some mysterious assailant. When he's finally captured, you then get this cut scene of a red lightsaber and someone in black robes. Then you go to 10 years later on Coruscant, and you have everyone in the Supreme Chancellor's private chambers talking about the Separatist movement and how it's gaining traction, and how you resolve that. And because the very beginning of Attack of the Clones, the assassination attempt, gets kind of thrown away through the rest of the film, and it's not like an important and integral portion. Honestly, a better effective scene for an assassination attempt is the scene you get after Obi-Wan and Anakin are assigned the security detail for the senator.
Yeah,
because it's a better, more direct, more stakes-filled scene than the first scene. Because all the first scene gives, yeah.
Like, so you have Padme show up on camera with a full fucking face mask helmet on, just so you can be like, "Oh no, they killed Padme."
But
it was really just a cheap throwaway when they killed the Queen.
Yeah.
To make you think, to give you a false level of suspense, thinking they killed Padme, for her to immediately take the mask off, like, "I'm fine, don't worry."
Whereas I think what would have been better is you set the stakes for this mystery of who's this person who killed this Jedi. Then when the assassination attempt that happens at Coruscant at night, you can still have that chase scene, and you can keep that. That's entertaining because it establishes the relationship, the professional relationship that both Obi-Wan and Anakin have, as well as how that interplays with their more brotherly father-son relationship that they have as teacher and apprentice.
So I actually really like the talk back shithead nature of Anakin in this movie.
Yeah, because it shows that he's still cocky and has a lot to learn. Plus, he's also kind of has that. He also has that bloated ego of like, I'm the chosen one. I am this prodigy, but he still doesn't accept until like the very end of the movie and throughout like the first few seasons of the Clone Wars animated series that he still has a lot to learn. He slowly learns the lessons over time. So like, if you make this a stepping stone for his character, it would make him a better character in the movie overall.
I think
I also would replace Padme entirely.
But I think if we had something, and we got that really in the Clone Wars, I think we needed to see more of Anakin being the badass before he started shit talking to Obi-Wan, because that would make us sympathize with him more. It'd make us be like, okay, I understand why Anakin's frustrated right now, because he does do good. He is a badass. He's not getting the credit he deserves. Whereas the first time you watch the movie, it's like, why is Anakin such a dweeb? Why is he being such an annoying piece of shit right now?
So let's be real here. That actually wasn't terrible writing.
No, it's not. It just required context.
No, it doesn't even require context. Like, you see this young kid who has admitted to having a crush on this girl he's in front of, and is now shit talking and talking back to his master, his teacher, his friend, to show off.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Like,
I'm not saying it's illogical.
It doesn't require context.
It's not
it just could be better.
Yeah,
better
writing and better direction is required to like make it less abrasive and less cocky, but more childish and immature. I guess make it more immature, less like whiny, and then you get a more mature character. Yeah,
because you're right, Joe. When you look at it in its proper context, like if you look at it and you understand what George Lucas is going for, it makes perfect sense. I think what we needed is just for him to kind of grab our hand and guide us through it a little bit. So
Yeah.
that way we did immediately sympathize with Anakin and understand he's being a cocky kid right now. He's
Yeah.
being immature, and we're supposed to think that. Whereas I think that seems it's so muddle. Like, whose perspective are we supposed to be on and stuff? I feel like Jar Jar Binks in that situation where he's on the couch and he's like swallowing throat. He's like, "What the fuck's going on here right now?"
I mean, yeah, Obi-Wan
Yeah.
is the best response. Is what?
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The first time you ever talked back.
In like 5 years, we talked about this 5 years ago.
Badass girl.
Yeah. So, anyways, like, and then after the assassination scene, you keep that the night cantina scene, and then you start the noir mystery plot the same way that it did in the film, except you make it more refined. You refine it, you hone it down, and give a reason as to why.
I think refine's a better word. Yeah.
You give a reason for why Obi-Wan is wanting to go off on this detective work tour of the galaxy to try to find out where this starts from. Remove the diner scene. You can make Dax an informant, but not like harken back to the 50s. But you should have.
Hey, I would watch a show dedicated to Dax Diner. Okay.
That's.
I would love him to show up in the Kenobi show, like unironically. I think that
Yeah.
like, that would actually be interesting.
Yeah. So
I think it's great. But one of the big things I would definitely want to change about the prequels as a whole, but starting with Attack of the Clones, is removing Padme as the love interest and introduce Bail Organa's sister, not an actual canon character, doesn't exist.
Oh, I see.
Her the love interest.
I say. I mean, you
Somebody,
could,
somebody Anakin's age, so it removes the creepy factor,
yeah.
and it gives more reason for Leia to be the Princess of Alderaan, and lets you have that one line because you don't kill her off at the very end.
Mm.
I remember my mother.
Yeah. Actually,
I didn't think about that, but I think
You make Padme an important character still, but you don't make her the love interest.
I think I might actually agree with you. It's not that I hate Padme. Maybe you
No, I
could do
love
something.
Padme.
You could do something like take Padme and turn her into. You'd have to go back and change Phantom Menace a bit, but you could make Padme the sister of Bail Organa, or even another daughter.
You just make Naboo and Alderaan. So first off, Naboo is not Naboo. Naboo is Alderaan.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
something
okay,
like that,
so-
yeah.
We can-
rewrite the Phantom Menace to change
Okay.
the name of the planet. You would change nothing else on that other than the name, and you're fine. Palpatine is the senator of Alderaan. Cool. It would,
Yeah.
it
So-
would actually also make the destruction of Alderaan from Tarkin that much more impactful because he would know it was Palpatine's homeworld.
So okay,
Right.
here's my rebuttal, which kind of is not so much like an argument against, but more of a compromise for.
Okay.
You have Amidala, you have Padme Amidala be a familial relation to the Organa family, and that the Amidalas are actually a minor offshoot that were married off to a highborn family on Naboo, so that way the
Oh, okay.
Organas could use traditional royalist
Padme,
marriage.
Organa.
Yeah. So Padme Amidala is an Organa by blood relation, but not by blood relation through marriage and not through direct descendancy. So that we still have Sheev Palpatine be from Naboo and have this really good juxtaposition with his character of refinement in Naboo pacificity and society with the absolute rage and psychopathy that he bestows within his Sith identity as Sidious. Plus, you also still give a legitimate reason for Leia to be, oh, I remember my mother, but it could be that she's thinking of her adoptive mother when she was a child, and that it could have been that that adoptive mother died very young.
That's the excuse explained away right now. Is that that it was her adoptive mother,
Yeah,
Bail Organa's wife,
it's like
which I guess would be King Bail Organa if she is a princess.
well, yeah. So I think the big thing is that he's a senator.
Yeah.
Well, they're both
not
technically
senator.
they're both senators, because Leia is on a diplomatic mission. I'm a senator on a diplomatic mission to the planet of Alderaan. So she's a junior senator to her adoptive father, Bail. So Bail in this time has become the senior senator for Alderaan. At least I think that's what would be the context if we add in his appearances in Rogue One. But I think he was already senior senator at the time of the Attack of the Clones. So like
He was a senior senator at least during Revenge of the Sith.
yeah. So like
or he was a senator at least.
so
Maybe not a senior senator. God damn it! Even the fucking Star Wars Republic needs term limits.
yeah. So which
You know, I'm
is
looking
sort
at
of
the
thing.
Wikipedia article, and I don't know if Bail Organa was a king or not.
So I
It
think
doesn't make any sense that
so-
he's not.
So I think it could be that like because like on Naboo, the queen the queen of the Naboo people, like the human population on the planet, is a young girl that's selected out of the highborns of Naboo society, but they are not the senator. They have a separate like prime minister style position for the senator for that planet. It could be that Alderaan could have like a direct monarchy where whoever is king is the senator for the planet. So their leadership and their
So I honestly think it is a monarchy, but it's a matriarchy.
so is his
the
wife is
husband of
his
the queen is the senator,
and would be the
and the queen rules.
yeah, and would be like adjutant to the queen, as opposed to like I am the king, but I'm adjutant to the queen, who is the one who actually holds the royal authority.
Much like actual monarchies. That
Yeah,
we've had.
which I think makes sense, and which I think is actually canon that Alderaan's a matriarchal monarchy. That would
It's
make
a democratic monarchy.
a democratic
So, like,
monarchy.
Yeah, you vote for.
It's a straight up monarchy. It just so happens that the royal blood was the queen. The highborn lord that married the queen
Is the
Bail
senator?
Organa.
Yeah, and is the senator.
Okay.
So like
he's not the king because he did not, sign over the authority of the kingdom of Alderaan.
Yeah, it's just that he is prime minister of Alderaan, ergo senator in the Galactic Senate of the Galactic Republic.
But like real talk, for the entirety of the prequels as a whole, if you made Naboo into Alderaan just in name, you don't have to change anything except introduce Bail Organa a little sooner, which is fine.
You're right, and it's also one of those things. I think there's a lot of things about that with the prequels, just simple changes, real simple changes would have made for a much better viewing experience as a whole.
Yeah,
And it would have tied in better to the original trilogy because we didn't see Alderaan. We did not get the benefits of seeing.
We got a
Alderaan
tiny
outside
little
of the
glimpse.
explosion.
We get a little glimpse of it in Revenge of the Sith, the tiniest miss it and you blink glimpse.
Well,
you also get a little bit. You also get a little bit more of it in the Clone Wars animated series because there is a short arc on Alderaan. Yeah.
Again, I'm speaking on the original trilogy only, the first 3 movies.
You get jack shit of it.
You get Alderaan's explosion.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Hard to care about that.
So now if they start the movie, if you start the prequels, because you really can't fix one without fixing them all.
Yeah.
You start episode 1, Phantom Menace, with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan going to meet with the Trade Federation on behalf of the Council's orders and the request of the Senate on the planet of Alderaan. Boom. One minor change gives you a huge tie-in immediately to the original trilogy and gives you a glimpse of something you never got to see. You get this familiarity, this new world that you get to see is how you wanted to picture. Like, I wanted to picture Alderaan as Naboo before we met the Gungan.
It basically is. They're so similar. They might as well be like they are ludicrously similar. Like it's honestly eerie, and it makes no sense why they ought not. Like, why wouldn't you make them the same planet? I think George Lucas just wanted to give himself a degree of separation because he's gonna blow up the planet in Episode 4, but. From where I stand, that makes the planet that much more interesting to see. You
get to see what the planet was like before it got blown up.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you actually get a bit more. So, in a tie-in to A New Hope, Obi-Wan's pain. Yeah, we get it. He can feel the living force. He can feel all that life disappear.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also tie that to his emotional pain of like, I spent a lot of my fucking time on this planet. What the fuck?
Right.
It also ties him back to Vader.
Yeah.
It makes that Vader scene a little more impactful because it's like if I didn't go on this mission to this planet the very first time, I never would have met this piece of shit who became Vader.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it also like I also just did a little bit of a Google search. So like I had to remind myself like what the fuck was the capital city of Naboo, and it's the city of Theed. And then for what's the capital of Alderaan? Alderaan. Like just fucking make the capital city of Alderaan Theed, so you can still keep like this, like you keep the internal settings, the internal setting details of Naboo, and just tie it to Alderaan, and like Alderaan could be
Alderaan, and you fix the huge...
They're so similar.
And it's like
beautiful,
and you could
they're both peaceful. It's I mean,
All right. I'll be the stick in the mud.
All right, let's hear it.
So
are you gonna be a Gungan apologist? Is that what you're gonna be?
Who's a Gungan apologist?
I can understand your points. I think that they're all well made. If the prequels were ever about what, like, Padme and her mattering at all. Literally, the only reason why the prequels exist is to say, hey, Darth Vader's a Star Child. Hey, Darth Vader entered a wartime phrase and rose to the challenge. And hey, Darth Vader is the anti-hero plot twist. That's all it's really supposed to say. And I understand.
It's not that you're wrong. I just think it could be a lot more than that.
It's not that, like, I'm not saying I don't agree with what you have said and how they could have expanded upon the universe and how they could have made continuity corrections. However, when it comes down to making a 2-hour film to try and cover the rise of Darth Vader, the explanation as to why the galaxy is not at, quote unquote peace, and the establishment of an empire that is so vastly different than, like,
I thought Joe was supposed to be the prequel apologist here. What's happening?
It's not so much that I'm apologizing for the prequels. It's more of like
I'm just making a joke.
I'm saying that the goal behind the prequels was literally just to describe Darth Vader's rise and Empire. That's why Padme has literally no context throughout the rest of the films. Padme is in fact just a trash character that is the love interest of Darth Vader. She
didn't have to be a
trash
character.
She didn't have to, but that's what ended up being the case.
Funnily enough, in this movie,
hold on, guys. I'm going to interrupt here.
Yeah.
Josh, I agree with you 100% on all points. That is what the prequels are for.
Yeah.
But the point of this podcast was how would we improve them?
Yeah, which I'm getting.
Specifically improving Attack of the Clones, but I feel like we're rewriting Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, which is also wildly more interesting.
Like I say, we have to talk about all at the same time, and you guys went on for about 30 minutes where I was silent. So I was just like, all right,
I'm gonna shut up for Josh.
I'm gonna let you guys get it out, and then I'm gonna say my opinions.
Josh has the talking stick.
All right, I had the talking stick. I am the left arm. So, what was made with the films was just that. It was very bare bones. There was nothing thought out. Right. So a lot of the corrections that you've made, I mean, frankly, they probably would have went over like an hour's worth of debate of what specific details. Like, for instance, the part where it's Alderaan instead of Naboo. I agree and disagree. Like, I think that exploring Alderaan would have been a nice thing to do during the film. I don't think it should have been the main world of the first movie. I think that making that a different movie, exploring the fact that there's more than one planet in the galaxy, is kind of a good thing, and also making it not be like the core world, making it be a more remote world is as far as saying, hey, the galaxy is more than 3 planets, that's probably a good sign, because up until then we had Yavin, we had, well, not even Yavin, we didn't
Yavin actually 4. Have that many.
We had 5 planets.
Tatooine, Hoth, Yavin, Endor.
And we knew of Coruscant because of the
Dantooine.
A little bit, yeah. Dantooine, yep, that's right. That's not mentioned often, but it's there.
a small correction on that, Josh.
Yep.
Alderaan is a core planet. That was the whole point of it being destroyed over Dantooine.
Yeah.
I wasn't referring to.
Dantooine was through
I wasn't referring to Alderaan. I was referring to Naboo as a non-core world.
It is a mid-rim world. I actually just looked up the galactic map in order to cover the next part of the script, just to see the script rewrite that I want to do for Attack of the Clones in particular. But continue talking.
We missed only 2 planets. It was Dagobah and Bespin, and then that's it.
Yeah.
There's 8 planets.
I mean, yeah. So we had,
which is not much. Not much.
We not much. So including new planets in the prequels was a good idea. So, and honestly, exploring a CGI race it could have been better, but like I'm also judging a 1999 film.
I thought CJ was joking when he said you were going to be the Gungan apologist, but it turns out
about the Gungans, you could have left the Gungans of Naboo the same and just made them the Gungans of Alderaan. That didn't have to change their existence. I actually don't hate the Gungans. I hate Jar Jar. But I do hate the Gungans as a race. I think they're actually a really interesting race.
I
think it's a fair point.
I think it's a fair point. I'm honestly not as hating on Jar Jar as I used to be, considering we see his character develop from this stupid, moronic character into a senator.
Jar Jar just washes over me now. I used to really not enjoy his character at all, but now I'm just kind of neutral. Maybe it's because of that episode he had with Mace Windu in the Clone Wars. It was a really good episode.
Possibly, like he's still a moron, but like he's adapted to his surrounding, which is why I think that the biggest joke of all this is that he's actually a Sith apprentice during all this. And as funny as it is, it's in a way it's not wrong. He does become a senator.
That's not wrong. I do think that George Lucas's attention was to give a little bit more spotlight to Jar Jar and why he made those decisions, but I don't think he was going to secretly reveal that Darth Jar Jar was a tank.
No, I think that he was just a dumb person that got influenced by the dark side by Palpatine.
He was always meant to make the emergency vote to give Palpatine the powers. I think that's what it was, which makes perfect sense.
I agree.
And I think that actually that would be another reason why Naboo being the world that the Gungans are from is a good thing, because if you made it an Alderaan thing, then we would have plot continuity errors with New Hope, because why would you blow up a planet that is so heavily and easily influenced by your direct Sith control?
So that's the best. That would be the best part, though. My point to that was like Tarkin choosing to blow up Alderaan, knowing that now if Naboo was Alderaan, not Naboo is Naboo.
Yeah.
Knowing that's Palpatine's homeworld, the Emperor's homeworld. Not knowing, because at that point, no one knows that Palpatine is a Sith Lord except for Vader.
Yeah.
Which is why the whole none of the people on the Death Star, including Tarkin, are like.
What about Thrawn?
Thrawn didn't exist.
Who?
Thrawn didn't exist yet. So we're not going to talk about Thrawn.
Okay, fair.
We're not going to talk about the diametrically opposing views of the Thrawn doctrine and the Tarkin doctrine. That's a different episode.
Okay, all right. I retract my
Tarkin
statement.
and the Imperials, officers that were in charge on the Death Star, had no idea about Palpatine's connection to the Sith or the dark side or the Force at all. Because of the throwaway line about Vader being the last of his religion.
Yeah,
right. That is right.
So I'm going to just counter slightly with it. I think that was referring to the fact that Darth Vader's history is known that he's a fallen Jedi.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not in regards to him being a fallen Jedi. The propaganda at that point, even in the original script treatment of George Lucas's initial canon, is that Palpatine used Darth Vader as this is the only Jedi who was loyal during the Purge. So he is a special case, which is why he is my right hand.
Yeah, he showed loyalty to the Republic.
Which is why in a lot of Imperial propaganda, when Vader's featured, he is seen as this heroic, triumphant brutalist, like icon, because a lot of people believe that he is the only quote unquote good Jedi, because all the other ones try to betray the Republic.
Yeah.
So
right.
That's the propaganda, absolutely.
yeah. Plus, also to tie it to the whole Alderaan point, like the initial reason for destroying Alderaan is like that is the center of rebellion in regards to the political rebellion happening with the Galactic Senate.
Yep.
So when Palpatine dissolves the Senate, it makes the reason for keeping Alderaan not important anymore. It doesn't. There's no reason to keep that core world around at all, which is why Tarkin destroys it to send a message using his Tarkin doctrine philosophy. So if you make Alderaan the central planet of the prequels to explore that culture and as to why it is so freedom loving, makes the mark of its destruction and A New Hope so much more impactful if that's the planet that you've been centered a lot of your subplot downtime in.
And then, like, you don't have to get into the details because this would be an in-between and backstory stuff for the sequels. But, like, Palpatine, Tarkin blowing up Alderaan, it being Palpatine's homeworld, the whole propaganda behind that is very simple. That the Emperor was willing to sacrifice everything he knew and loved for the protection of the people in the Empire to keep them safe.
Yeah.
Because of the dissent and the rebellion that was coming from his home, of all places.
It also adds thematically because even in the canon, like the present canon, Naboo was like one of the first planets that was super purged by the Imperial Army and the Stormtroopers because Palpatine was trying to erase his past. So if like for 3 decades, if Palpatine had his homeworld sort of begin to be this hotbed of rebellion and dissent politically, and then actually discovering that a lot of the political players, or like he already knew, but he waited for the rest of the galaxy to discover that a lot of these political players from his homeworld are tied centrally to the rebel command and like leadership structure, then it gives him very justified reasons propaganda-wise and like politically and militarily to destroy a core world. Because like it's like the first known instance in Star Wars canon at all, with George Lucas canon and even I think presently with Disney canon, where a core world has been absolutely fucking destroyed for the good of everybody else, quote unquote.
Yep.
All right. So things I'll say. I think that tying Alderaan into the being Palpatine's homeworld might have also ended up being then we would have seen a different world as the one that was blown up, because it wasn't, because I understand like your points of being like, oh, it's his homeworld and that he's so willing to like be the peace in the galaxy that he ended up pretending to be in the galactic mindset, that he's willing to destroy his own world, but at the same time then it would just become Naboo, and what we saw with Naboo and how he basically raided his homeworld and established order the way he did with Naboo, and it would have just been Naboo in this alternate version of the play.
No. So we're not changing. So this whole like rewrite exercise is not to change the homeworld to something different. At least with like Joe's
It's just a name
perspective. It's just a name change. So you erase Naboo entirely from the story and from the galaxy, and just make it Alderaan. So it's a more central. It's a more central story.
I understand that, CJ. What I'm saying is that if they did that, they would just make a different world be blown up.
No, they would just it would still be Alderaan, because what we're changing is the prequels, not the sequel, not the original trilogy.
I don't mean
I'm
to
sorry.
interrupt or to let this like die or anything, but I am going to check out. Not for any particular reason. I just have other things to do.
Okay.
Got you.
I hope you guys come to a nice conclusion.
I actually, to that point, it's been almost 2 hours now. Obviously, we're all nerds here. We are all very opinionated on Star Wars, especially. And again, we knew that coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what can really be said in the long run is the prequels, as written, were not good movies. They were fun. They told a coherent story. It wasn't the best written, but it was coherent. It tied to each movie, and it rhymed with the sequels to a point, as it was meant to, or not the sequels, but the original trilogy. They could be better. Attack of the Clones has a lot of work that I think we'll get into further down the line. But in order to rewrite one, you would have to rewrite them all to some extent to make the prequels good. And that's already been done by somebody.
By several people, actually.
Fair enough. I've only seen one. It was a video essay on it, on the prequels.
Yeah.
And I agree with a lot of it. And that's going to be a shout out to Belated Media on YouTube from me. I agree with a lot of his views on how to attack the prequels as they are with the new canon that we have. That's an important piece. But in the end, the best way to fix the prequels is to get someone to rewrite the dialogue.
Well, rewrite a lot of it. But yeah, I think that fixing the prequels would fix a lot of the continuity, making it not just about Darth Vader and making it more focused on like the rise of the Empire, and then have Darth Vader be kind of like not a background, but just not the main focus of the story.
Yeah.
The prequels were Palpatine's story. Like, so each movie had a focus character. And Obi-Wan was the primary focus character for 2 of those movies.
Yeah.
Though Anakin had a much better share in Revenge of the Sith of screen time as a focus character. But in truth, those were all Palpatine's movies. Especially Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
That was Palpatine's rise to power. And there's one line I would never change, and it is the "I am the Senate." That was the best line. It really, really dug in who he was as the Emperor. Like, yeah, there's a Senate, sure. I'm the man in charge.
Yeah. So sort of to roll it into the idea of just the initial topic of just like rewriting Attack of the Clones specifically. It's Josh, sort of the point of rewriting the Attack of the Clones is to set up that transitional story in Revenge of the Sith, because Revenge of the Sith is Palpatine's ultimate plan of tricking and convincing Anakin Skywalker to become a Sith Lord. Whereas Attack of the Clones tries to set up that journey and doesn't do it well enough. Setting up...
I agree. I agreed with all that.
Yeah. I'm just restating for the audience, anyone who's rejoined and tried to like and I'm just trying to retread a little bit of that to go into further into my point. Not a fool. Yeah, in the rewrite pitch I gave to Alec, and I think I'm changing it a little bit just because of like I like the idea of changing Naboo to just Alderaan because that makes it a very important location now. You have the one thing that like needs to change, I think, or at least the context of it needs to change, is the scene on Tatooine where Anakin and Padme go there because he has dreams of his mother. Because that's like the one thing I've had trouble with the last couple of days trying to think of like how would I rewrite that, and if we rework the political side being like the primary focus of the film in regards to like what does the separatist movement mean to the greater galaxy and like why is it important that the Jedi don't get involved, like the initial meeting at the beginning of the film after the Sifo Dyas scene at the very beginning, where you have Palpatine talking with everybody, including representatives of the Jedi Order like Yoda, Mace Windu, and whatnot, with like Sandra Amidala and a few other senators. You could be like, I want to send a diplomat to the Separatists. I want to understand why they want to leave the Republic. is it possible? And you could have Senator pipe up, go like, "Why don't we just send the Jedi?" And Yoda or Mace go, "This is not our duty. This is not our job. We take care of Republic jurisdiction. These people are separatists. This is clearly against our doctrine to, police and to negotiate with. This is a political alone. It's only politically done. This is only something your senators can do." And then you have Amidala offer like, so as junior senator to Senator Organa, I'd like to put myself forward to be the diplomat. But I would feel a lot safer if I had Jedi escorts, just so that way, in the eyes of the Republic and in the eyes of the Separatists, the Jedi aren't showing apathy to the situation. And then Palpatine goes, "Is there anyone that you trust out of the Jedi Order?" And then Amidala goes, "Well, I mean, I trust Master Kenobi." And then have Mace drop like, "Well, Master Kenobi and his Padawan Skywalker are on their way back from on a mission off planet. We can assign them to you, and they can speak to you about the Senate's plans of this diplomatic mission." Then you have the assassination attempt scene that happens in Attack of the Clones. You change very little of it. The only thing that really changes is removing the first assassination attempt and making the second one the first one. So that way it raises the stakes for this diplomatic mission. So it makes politics exciting by...
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. I like it, and one of the reasons I really like it is it ties the Jedi in a movie-only verse, again, because not all people watch all the side products, so all they care about are the movie.
Yeah.
It really helps Palpatine's rise to power if the Jedi are getting involved in the smaller squabbles before the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because, we know Obi-Wan fought in the Clone Wars, but we didn't know what the Clone Wars were.
Yeah.
That was the big thing in A New Hope. The throwaway line, we fought in the Clone Wars together. Oh, cool. Fuck with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Having the Jedi get involved, even though they're actively don't want to, the public won't see that. The public won't see the private conversation in the council chamber.
Yeah.
They're just gonna see two Jedi escorting a senator where war breaks out from it.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Because it raises the stakes in the casus belli of the CIS for the Clone Wars, and puts a huge black mark on the Jedi come the Clone Wars animated series, where there was already public mistrust of the Jedi because they take children away from parents. But it makes it even worse if they're also tied to the cause of war for the Clone Wars. So moving forward with it, and you have this mystery arise with the saber dart, and then Obi-Wan discovers, oh, this comes from the planet of Kamino. They produce specialized weapons as well as other things, but we haven't been in contact with that planet. Instead of making it not on the records at all, it was being erased, you just have that nothing is very well known, because the Kaminoans aren't technically part of the Republic. They are a Outer Rim planet, which checking the interactive map, they are almost beyond the known regions of the Outer Rim.
They far away.
Yeah, they're far away.
They're farther out than Tatooine, and Tatooine was an Outer Rim planet.
Yeah, so they're close to beyond they are beyond the Rim in the Rishi Maze. So you make it the Kaminoans haven't communicated. We haven't had a Jedi since Sifo Dyas. You drop the name of the Jedi you see at the beginning of the film, and he went missing coming back from a survey of the planet. And so you add more. You could add more to the mysteries. You have the name Sifo Dyas now, then the planet Kamino, and then you give a reason as to why Obi-Wan might be interested in going there.
I don't like that. I don't like tying Sifo Dyas to Kamino prior to Obi-Wan's arrival.
Or at least you could say a Jedi went on a survey and they went missing, and it's not known who the Jedi was. You just don't know.
You don't ever send a Jedi out to know. Sifo Dyas went there on his own accord.
Okay.
because Cypher Diaz got orders from who we thought was the council.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because yeah, you're right.
It was actually Palpatine the whole time, but Cypher Diaz was tricked into building the clone army,
Yeah,
and that's where
So-
Dooku and Palpatine did their thing.
yeah. So like it could just be the throwaway land of like it's so far out. It's an outer rim world. There's not a lot of surveys that are done of the planet. Plus, the people are very private there, which is very true of the Kamino culture as a whole, at least in canon.
Until the Clone Wars.
I will pause right here for a sec.
Mhm.
So I like what you're saying for the most part, CJ. However, my opinion of the second movie and partially of the third is back to kind of Joe's original process of thought of if you're going to fix the movie, you got to fix all of them. I think that just axing most of what was filmed in 2 is actually probably a better idea. And if I had an idea of what to plot out with, would be like Phantom Menace. I mean, regardless of the planet issue, the introduction to Darth Vader's childhood, the introduction to the Emperor, the thought process and slight fan theory. I don't know if it was ever explored in the actual book or not, of Anakin being a Force clone of Palpatine.
That's not canon at all. He is
Yeah,
he is a manifestation of the Force driven by Plagueis and by Palpatine.
Yeah.
All right, so first off, to that end, Anakin specifically, I'd make him at least a teenager when he's first met, not a child, because like he's 8.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's 8. How is he too old? He's still moldable at 8.
Yeah.
I thought he was 10, but regardless,
He's a child.
yeah.
Make him a teenager. Make him a pilot. You
Yes.
know,
I see.
because
Regardless, introduction of the character would have been fine. Introduction to his upbringing, we'll call it, whether it be through as a pilot, as a slave, whatever, something that's more on the nitty and gritty scale would make sense. And having him help the Jedi and being discovered as a Force sensitive via that during a initial time of crisis, an introduction to the War of the Future makes sense. But then in movie 2, I would actually even say that he never actually he's like almost like a dropout Jedi.
I mean, so that's sort of what happened. There's actually a script rewrite of that, which I was trying to avoid that age up. My whole thought exercise with rewriting Attack of the Clones specifically is to not change a lot with Phantom Menace, although I do agree with the Alderaan change with making Naboo Alderaan and just erasing Naboo entirely. And like
we will stand at odds at that forever, but that's fine. We'll move on.
But like, yeah, and so like the whole exercise was like not to change a lot about Phantom Menace at all, and just fix. How would I fix Attack of the Clones as it sits in the present trilogy without changing any other film? Granted, you are right. You are correct in a lot of it, and I think we can all agree that if you're going to change one, you have to change all of them in order to make continuity make sense. But George Lucas didn't do a whole lot of that, and Disney hasn't done a whole lot of that either. And it's only in recent times that when it's handed to other people that know what they're doing, that it makes more sense and it has a lot better consistency as a product and as a story. So the whole point of this thought exercise and pitch to Alec for me was, with the restrictions of not changing the previous film and giving a better highlight to the preceding film without changing that, how do I make this movie better? It's definitely trimming a lot of the fat and trimming a lot of the travel time and putting in more emphasis on these interesting themes that were introduced in the film but weren't carried through to the very end by giving it a different ending rather than what we got. So a lot of my explanations and steps towards that are like step by step and trying to like make it different bits in this podcast format.
I say like you could go on it for a 12-hour podcast and go into every single detail that we could do, but as a whole, the general concept of the second movie the focus should not have been on a relationship between a pointless character and Darth Vader's as a child. It should have been more about the government and the ongoing situation. The whole point of what you've just said is being basically summed up in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Here, right?
And the last 45 minutes of the movie, so I would definitely make a major change. First off, you're cutting out a large chunk of Anakin and Padme. I would keep in the his mother scene, because that really does start him down the dark side path. And
Yeah.
you want that.
So
You want to show that he is capable of being swayed to the dark on his own.
So if I could get into the next part of the rewrite process that I thought of in my thought exercise. So even if we don't change Naboo to Alderaan for changing everything, if it stays Naboo, you cut out Naboo entirely from the film. You cut out that entire really horrifically directed and written banter arc between him and Padme. You, instead of putting her in the safety of Naboo, you can put Sandra Amidala closer to where the diplomatic meeting is going to occur until Obi-Wan comes back from his detective noir adventure, and you can just immediately plant them into Tatooine and have the entire seed planted for Padme and Anakin's relationship based around his grieving process after the death of his mother. So you can still keep the Tusken Raider scene, and sort of just change the direction in the writing between him and Padme in the aftermath of that. But more importantly, and I didn't get into it before with the initial meeting scene in Palpatine's chambers, but at this point, I want to tie it back to a scene that happened in Attack of the Clones originally, which lacked a lot of weight in that movie, and it didn't really hit as hard as it should have. But in the original film, after the Tusken Raiders get slaughtered by Anakin, you see it cuts back to Yoda's meditation chambers, and he's hearing Qui-Gon Jinn's ghost basically yelling through the living force as Anakin's slaughtering these Tuskens, and Yoda's visibly in meditation, like aggrieved and feeling the pain and the loss and suffering that Anakin's experiencing as Mace Windu walks in, and Windu's just asks, like, "Are you okay, Master? Are you okay, Master?" And he's, just like responds like, "Pain. I feel the pain and suffering is all I feel," and like then it just jumps from that to when shall we inform the Senate that we can no longer see through the Force. Like, the only context in that for that scene and the weight of that statement is in the beginning of the film after the initial assassination plot, where Yoda goes, clouded the Force is difficult to see through it is, and it just shows that slow beginning of like Palpatine's influence and the way he's manipulating, like, at least in the subtext of like expanded canon at the time, how he's influencing the Force Nexus of Sith powers beneath the Jedi Temple to blind the Jedi, because they only use the Temple at that point. But in the rewrite, instead of making it a stated line, you give context by showing and not telling of him closing his eyes and sort of just meditating on a question or a statement in that scene and being like, and just have him go, it's hard to see it is, as far as like maybe like, what do you think we may be successful in this endeavor? And he just sort of peers through the Force and just, hard to see it is. You just lay that you just plant that idea, and then you have the scene with Mace Windu and Yoda after the Tusken Raiders get slaughtered be more impactful by making it more important, like by trying to give that emphasis of, like, the Jedi are slowly but surely losing influence over their own like purviews, but you make it important to and tie that to like the reasons why the Clone Wars even happens, or even there's even a conflict between the Republic and the CIS.
An idea more so than anything else to expand upon that probably would get X2, but like, why don't we have like Anakin do all that and Padme actually report him to the Jedi Council as that, and then basically put on to a trial, like a holding area for the trial, and then that's when the Separatists attack. and he's basically saved, quote unquote, from an attack on him by Count Dooku.
So it's not a bad idea, but it's
That
not.
changes way
And
too
that-
much
That changes too much and removes the focus of the film on the politics and the separatist movement, which I think is the central point of the film, as well as keeping the antagonist of Count Dooku more of a mystery. It kind of removes that basis, which was sort of like the guidelines that I gave myself with the rewrite. It's a good idea. It'd be a great concept in a different rewrite, in a complete rework of the films and the trilogies as a whole, of the prequel trilogy as a whole. But like in this instance of this exercise and what I'm pitching, it wouldn't really work because the Jedi already, like the Jedi sort of in the canon, they kind of forgave Anakin very quickly because they needed commanders for the Clone Wars. So they were like, okay, you're a knight now, go.
CJ,
Yes.
I'm gonna interrupt you a little bit for a couple of points I need to make here.
Okay.
I understand you've got your rewrite thought process, and there are things that idea in and of itself is a huge cosmological issue with having Anakin saved by Dooku or brought on trial at all. But from that point, the Tatooine scene, and you flash to Yoda, Windu, you got a little bit of Palpatine doing some Palpatine shit. You come back to Obi-Wan. I would have him meet with Anakin and Padme en route to Geonosis for the intended diplomatic meeting.
Yeah.
Keep it Geonosis.
Because originally I was thinking about cutting out Geonosis. I'm like, well, because like my thinking was like maybe instead of making it this desert planet, because like at the time, the Iraq War was a thing, so desert combat was sort of like in the vernacular for like wartime Americans. I was thinking if to sort of keep it in that theme, but make it more impactful, make it more of a cosmopolitan mid-rim world. So like if when the clones do come in, it's more urban combat and less desert combat. So less open.
What I would have done with that entire scene is have Obi-Wan return with Commander Cody and a small group of clones, because he wants to bring physical proof to the council about this, not just
hearsay.
Yeah. So the clones, so a small squad of clones are deployed with Obi-Wan. Commander Cody, just because that's his number two.
Yeah, and that would be his future Legion. So
yeah, exactly. And a small battalion of clone troopers that don't need names.
It would be in like their original armor and their command structure colors, so it would just be there.
Yeah, they're just there. They arrive on Geonosis, and that's I think when you bring back Count Dooku immediately as a politician. That's what
I'm getting to. Okay. So as far as like to get back into Obi-Wan, so like before we get back into Obi-Wan, so like after the Tusken Raider scene, in order to plant the seed of Padme and Anakin's future relationship and marriage and pregnancy, you have her be the one that comforts him, and he seeks comfort in her because he like Anakin realizes he's made a mistake and instead of being brought forth and reported by her, she understands what he's going through because he didn't get that time that younglings did to wean off their parents and wean off that connection. So like it could be like it could be like a point of conflict for her. She's like, I'm gonna make a mistake by doing this, and then just comforts him. There doesn't need to be a kiss or anything. It could just be something very simple and very quiet. Maybe like with something without any music whatsoever, and it's just like her holding him as he's just grieving and like feeling this loss and going through this turmoil in himself that like I just slaughtered an entire tribe of people. I knew they were living people, but I saw them as animals and lesser than me because they took something from me. And then you cut back to, you either cut back to or intercutting between this and Obi-Wan, you have Obi-Wan go to Kamino, discover the clones, and discover Jango and a group of Mandalorians who are training the super commandos there. as well as just like get this understanding of, oh, there are Mandalorians who are training these clones who aren't sanctioned by the Republic, but Jedi Master Sifo Dyas, who died 10 years ago, or instead of died, went missing 10 years ago, apparently reportedly came here. Then like adding in your idea, Joe, okay, do you mind if I bring a sample battalion of clones with me to bring to the Council and to the Republic Senate so they can get so you can get your final approval? The Kaminoans, not really knowing anything otherwise as far as like the political guff going on, would probably just agree to that and give them like a small transport vessel for a battalion of clones. So you have Cody, you have Obi-Wan, but it also and then it kind of it makes the whole diplomatic mission a little bit more muddy. It's like, why do the Republic send a senator with 2 Jedi escorts on top of what may or may not be an illegal military detachment? Because like if you don't show them initially go with the Jedi and they land as a result of like Obi-Wan just sort of like last minute thing, like calling them in and bringing them in to help them, because it'd be like 2 Jedi and a senator against like a force of droids or something by the end of the film. Anyways, then you have Obi-Wan come back and like rendezvous with them with the clones as they could be they could be in the Geonosis system but not at the planet where they're meeting yet. And then it could be they could get like a transmission from the Jedi Council and be like, Master Kenobi, the situation seems to have escalated because the Separatists have elected their leader, who is going to be the diplomat that Senator Amidala is going to speak to, and it is Dooku. And then that's where you get Dooku's name drop, and still an heir to this mystery is like, okay, who's Dooku? And then it could be like Senator Amidala could be like, who is he? And then Kenobi being the only one knowledgeable of it at this point, because Anakin wouldn't know anything about him. Be like, he was Qui-Gon's master, and he left the Order after Qui-Gon's death. It's awfully surprising that he's coming out into public after such a long time gone. And then you get this sort of connection with the Clone Wars animated series, where Dooku's public image is as this magnanimous, like positive Cincinnatus leader.
Guy.
He's the good guy to the CIS. When in reality, in the background, he's the apprentice to the overarching Sith Lord that is Sidious, committing atrocities across the galaxy for the greater ends of the Sith in order to bring the downfall of the Jedi to fruit.
I am the CIS.
Yeah, kind of. So like you have this instance of like, okay, so we're meeting Dooku. This escalates the stakes for the Jedi and for Kenobi, because it'd be like, I wonder if he knows about Sifo Dyas, because I'm pretty sure even in the books and in the comics, Sifo Dyas and Dooku were friends, which is why when Dooku killed him, it was much more. It was like his test to Sidious to prove that he was loyal.
Yes. So one change, the clones. I want them there from the get-go, but I don't want them like. I want them kind of be like, stay on the ship, wait till we're done.
Yeah.
Follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders after all.
Yeah. And like Cody's the one that was by the book, so like it's not like it's the 501st.
And then like you got a problem that arises in the negotiations. Things go bad because Anakin can't keep his mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
It would be Anakin's fault, and that works out really well when it's Anakin's fault.
Maybe so. That's another. That was another challenge I came up with.
Really, because in truth, Dooku is 100% already at the point of, we're declaring war. Now I need to coax Anakin, because that's who Palpatine told him to do, into saying something stupid and making it look like the Separatists are in the right to really sew in that drama.
So I would say, instead of making it Anakin's fault directly, I would say it would be
he's absolutely played.
So like not in the sense of being played. Like I'd say for the sake of the political angle that the story that George wanted to tell to keep it intact, it is actions, not words, that prove that in the eyes of the separatist movement that the separatists are right and their casus belli for war. So it could be that Dooku in the background's like, okay, I've already seen the seeds of my master being planted within Kenobi's apprentice, this supposed chosen one. I want to stress test this theory. You could put another assassination attempt that occurs in the diplomatic meeting between Dooku and Amidala with both Anakin and Kenobi there, and you could have this instance of like this quote unquote group of assassins come to stop this meeting, and there's two different narratives that branch off from this. Anakin could have the mindset of, oh, the Separatists tried to kill Padme, someone who I now deeply care about, because like they helped me through, they've started helping me in the grieving process of my mother's death. And then for Dooku, he could say, look, the Republic sent assassins to kill me and to stop diplomacy. They don't want you to have freedom. They want to control you and oppress you. And then when the clones get introduced, when there's a wider battle on the planet, whether it's Geonosis or not, then that's even more proof and action that the Republic is in the wrong in the eyes of the Separatists.
So, I'm gonna step up with the power of hindsight on this one, and this is where I would introduce Asajj Ventress as a throwaway character with lightsabers.
Who was originally supposed to be in the Attack of the Clones movie.
She was. That's the whole point.
Yep.
So you bring in Ventress, and you have her try to kill both Dooku and Amidala, forcing Obi-Wan and Anakin to play hero. And because of that, Dooku calls out the Separatist droid army, and the clones have to get involved at some point. Then you have a scuffle and a lot of finger pointing from Dooku mostly, but also from Palpatine.
Yeah.
Like finger pointing at who hired the assassin, really.
And why do you have an entire droid army already prepared for war? And then you have Dooku publicly going
like, "Oh well, you brought soldiers."
Yeah, it's like you already had a military detachment there, and then at that point it could be like transmissions cut off from the planet, and publicly in the worlds of the CIS that are at that time, they could be fewer, like a medium amount. I forget how many planets exactly went to the CIS after the Battle of Geonosis. It could be like transmissions to like communications to the Greater Republic get cut off, but to the worlds.
So here's my input. You're creating now 2 movies, and you're trying because like I'm like the amount of time that would have to be input to do all these scenes is just more than 2.5 hours.
It's true.
Which is why a lot of it got cut. It's why Ventress got cut. So like, it's like your initial point was to only change a few details to try and make a more continuative movie, but the problem is you're changing them by replacing like the 5 or 10 minute scenes with half-hour scenes.
Not really, but continue.
We're having an issue where it's going to take too long for the film to actually be a short enough film to hit theaters, because you're generally looking at each of these films between 2 and 2.5 hours, generally speaking. Not just Star Wars films in films in general.
So,
just all these topics here that we're touching upon, the dialogue that has to happen, the combat scenes that would have to happen, and then to give it justice, you're looking at just these 2 scenes of combat being half the film, and then you also want to include the initial half of the film, and it's like we're hitting the point where it's like I don't see how we include every single scene.
I think you're assuming the length of these scenes, and it's like I haven't gotten to the point where like in this thought exercise of like how would I break down these scenes, because like even though we're describing a lot, film time and like talking about the ideas that would go into a script time are 2 different things when it comes to formulating a plan for a film.
Yeah,
because you could introduce Asajj Ventress as just like a throwaway character, like Joe said, but it could be a false flag in the script of, oh, this is the Darkrobe figure that killed the Jedi at the beginning, who the audience would assume is Sifo Dyas.
Yeah.
But then you can still have the stinger at the end of the film of Dooku is the one behind it all by him going to Coruscant or even like Alderaan or something, or Naboo, in meeting with Palpatine.
Which is why I'm trying to get this thing. Is that like, while there might be ideas of how to shorten it, like we're already hitting like a 4-hour mark.
I don't.
My account of listening to your ideas.
I don't think so. It's because I'm spitballing stuff.
I'll say I'm not saying like it's definite or whatnot. Like I'm not a film expert, but I am saying that it's just like it sounds like you're trying to include a lot that probably was already considered, in maybe different like ways to do it. But the reason why we have the film we do is because the film focus was Anakin's relationship, not the background scenes. And now you want to have background scenes while also having the relationship be part of it, which is just not possible.
Well,
it's too long. It's too long of a film.
So it's
it's too long of a film for it to have the context and any sort of explanation that we want it to do as viewers, to also be entertaining.
I still think I think you're disambiguating a little bit of what I introduced as ideas, because I'm not saying that background stuff should be brought into the foreground at the same time as the foreground stuff. My thinking is you remove entire sequences like Naboo, which is I think that's a 15 to 20 minute sequence in the film overall with the intercuts in a 2.5 hour long film. So by removing 20 minutes, you can refine those scenes and place them in Tatooine, which that sequence is 20 minutes long. So I'm not saying you transfer all the scenes from Naboo and put it in Tatooine. You remove Naboo and those scenes entirely, and you give the scenes on Tatooine more importance by giving them like 5 or 10 minutes from what would be the sequence on Naboo to Tatooine, and then the other 10 minutes from Naboo would go towards the end of the film, as well as removing some of the stuff involving Jango Fett and his fight with Obi-Wan, both on Kamino and in space above Geonosis. That's about 25 minutes of film, I think. So
what I'm saying is that I don't think that it's enough time to implement all the ideas that you're trying to spin, and without all your ideas that you're trying to spin in certain order, you're not going to have enough continuity to make the film followable. And therefore, you're going to lose people that go to see the film and be entertained. I think that it makes sense in hindsight to us a lot, and also while we're spitballing. But at the time, in the mindset of we have to figure out how to either explain, like if the topic is explain how like all the background politics are going on while also including a relationship story of Darth Vader and how he ties in. I think that is just too large of a film time-wise, just looking at that, and never mind ideas that we've spitballed during this. So it's just like, that's why I had said like you have to fix the entire Joe had said we'd fix all 3 films, you're going to fix them all in the same manner. You can't just change small details and expect a same duration of film to also then be continuative enough and entertaining enough to the viewer to want to just continue to see the movies. I'm not saying that your ideas are bad. I'm saying that your ideas are taking too much screen time, probably, to want to have your original topic for this discussion being what to change minorly to make it a more impactful film. It just ends up being like you're almost defeating your initial topic by saying all these ideas that can't be implemented the way that we would all want them to do. Because at the end of the day, the discussion is supposed to be like, how do we change the film like in a minor way to make the film more reputable? But at the end of the day, it's not. So like, there's so many things wrong with the film that we would have to overhaul the entire film in order to make any sort of sense.
Which is what I've been doing this entire time.
Yes, which is why.
I'm sorry, Josh.
I'm not saying
I
it's
agree
wrong.
with Josh. I agree with Josh. I've written a script. I've written a couple of fan scripts, and you know, the film isn't necessarily my passion. It is a hobby. It is one I've seriously considered on a levels outside of the writing scope. Like you CJ, you like to write. You could write a novel on this, and it would work. But if you look at the novelizations of any Star Wars movie, and they look at the movie, so much of the fact is trimmed
Yeah.
for the movie, and you've got a lot. Like, and this is not a personal attack on anyone here, myself included. In this description you've given, you do have a lot of fat. I can't argue with Josh at all on this. You have too much fat. You have good ideas, but I can't realistically implement this in a 2.5 hour sequence either with what you've given me. I can take parts of it, sure. I can take and rewrite the entire movie for the exact runtime of 142 minutes, and it would lose half of what you put in. Yes, I get the idea of you cut this 20-minute scene in favor of these two 10-minute scenes, but realistically, to tell a coherent story, those scenes need to be longer. Those scenes would need to play out longer, and there'd be way more action in this version, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Attack of the Clones was lacking in the action department by a lot for a majority of the movie.
Yeah, at least until like the final 45 minutes of the film, because like
the Obi-Wan fight.
Like the whole droid foundry scene, I think is like unnecessary. It's very Star Wars adventure fluff, which is like a big part that would be removed.
As is almost all of the action in Attack of the Clones is very Star Wars fluff, except for the opening chase, and though that's fluff, you could cut that. The opening chase being as long as it was can be cut down. It can't be cut completely.
Yeah.
But you can cut it down. And the fight with Jango Fett. That fight was important because it got Obi-Wan to where he needed to be. So you end up cutting that entire sequence because the whole reason he's going to Geonosis now is as a diplomatic bodyguard. But also, why would he go on his noir story by himself if he's actually working on mission? That is unrelated to his mission, and it's not something Obi-Wan would do. So you're also like breaking a character's continuity.
Frankly, as far as that goes, I think that just getting rid of the fight and then having still like, hey, you know what? It's really odd that a bounty hunter is on Kamino, and that happens to like if they had like seen the clone faces, happens to look like these clones. That's really weird. I'm just gonna follow him to where he's going, and happen to across Count Dooku, like so. Just a small scene of him putting the beacon onto the slave
onto Slave One
would have been enough for me. But also, to touch upon the fluff scenes,
fight, but I loved it. I didn't see that fight, but I loved it.
That's just it. To touch upon the fight scene, the droid factory scene, that goes into part of the reason why films are successful. It's entertaining to the viewer. It's so like people like me, people like Joe, I'm sure, and people like you and all that who go
and
into wanting who go into also liking the lore. We would totally be fine with cutting the fluff like that, but going to a person that's just looking for a source of entertainment about space samurai is basically right.
Oh my god, yeah. If your whole movie is just politics with minimal action and no fluff, you're not gonna have a good movie. You're not gonna have success. That is a cinema fact.
So like to back on point that I'm sure that Joe's also trying to make is that like we love your ideas because we're simps to lore.
Yeah, we are.
But like as a general like viewing and wanting to make a film, what the content that we would all like is worth 2 films worth of stuff for the second film to be split into 2, where it's just hey, this is Vader, and hey, this is the politics behind Vader, and just have them happen at the same time frame and get together basically for the third movie. That would make, frankly, probably a lot more continuity sense and be also entertaining.
I agree. Like I'm gonna.
But again, that wasn't the topic. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna echo you here. On the We Are Sips for Lore, 100%. I would personally love each Star Wars movie to be broken down and expanded further to be 2 movies each. And then I'd probably, if they ever did that, which they would never do, I would probably want each movie brought down into 8 episodes each.
Yeah.
Like, I love Star Wars lore. I love the story. Does that make for good cinema, though?
No.
Not really. Not in a movie setting.
So I guess
And that's
so,
where I gotta agree.
and Star Wars isn't even the first film where they've just torn in a new a-hole
Yeah.
in comparison
So-
to the lore.
so I guess maybe because like we're now almost 2.5 hours in, and I don't know how much longer we want to go and continue. Do we want?
I want to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Soon, personally, I need to
So-
go have dinner.
Yeah.
Same.
So do we? So for like maybe like the last 5 minutes, would maybe instead of the extras being rewriting Attack of the Clones and like rewriting the movies as a whole, would maybe taking into like the modern context of like how the Mandalorian has been doing things, how we would rewrite their prequels as like a series, maybe.
No,
No. Okay.
I'm gonna veto that.
this. So here's my input. I could see it as a series if it wasn't already the prequels,
Yeah.
right? So
That's why. Yeah, I agree. Like that's why I have to veto it. I can't take. I can. I 100% can take it and break it down into a series. I refuse to. I refuse to do it.
Here's the few points I'll make. I think that, for instance, a Darth Vader series similar to The Mandalorian will be very interesting, especially if it followed
The comic
the
books.
the way of the Inquisition.
Yeah, the Sith Inquisitors and whatnot. Because I think Vader Down would be a great like season by itself because it ends with Luke Skywalker fighting him.
The problem is that I see is that Disney is just now kind of exploring having a series that is of the darker hue. Like Mandalorian is of the darker hue of cinema, and for a long time they didn't want to make films where they have the bad guys as the main characters. And not to say that the Mandalorian is the bad guy, but like.
But they've introduced
Definitely not a good person.
they introduced the concept of the Acolyte, which is going to be a series that may be about
the
Darth
Acolyte
Plagueis
is
and Bison,
at the end of the High Republic.
which would be the like Palpatine being trained by Plagueis.
So I think that would be seeing the results of that would give them the go ahead on whether or not they can actually run a series based off of the main character's dark guy. Sorry.
Yeah, because people have been wanting like content to be written about the Darth Vader Secret Apprentice and making that actual official canon.
Exactly.
So like it's so like it kind of ties back to like what's considered canon by the company, what's considered canon by the fans. The fans want all this stuff to be considered canon, but the company wants to trim it and break it down into monetizable bits when the whole fucking thing is monetizable.
The biggest problem with what us, the fans, want as canon versus what is canon is the EU is full of so much contradiction.
Yeah.
Because every writer did what they fucking wanted because George Lucas didn't have any oversight on them.
Yeah. And now that Disney wants
So
oversight, there's going to be a lot of
EU.
push.
Fuck the EU. I enjoy it. I like reading it. I like what they bring into the canon. But that's it. It's legend. It's not canon until it is made canon. Deal with it.
There's also the fact there's also the fact that it's books. You know, like books are what you make it. But at the end of the day, it's just meant for entertainment, just like anything else. So
Books, video games.
So like as far as the original question of like, would we rather see it as a series? Kind of yes. I think that right now I think that right now Disney experimenting with Mandalorian on all the series that they currently are coming out with is a good start for that type of thought process. I don't think we'll see replacements for the videos, but we'll probably see series similar to the Clone Wars explaining behind the scenes stuff.
As a layman, I myself would like this
series.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to step on you.
Sorry. This will be the last thing I'm going to say. I'm going to hop off and go get dinner. But I wouldn't be surprised if the next series of movies we get are because of a TV series, like an expansion or a hyper focus on a specific point based on something a TV series is built up to.
Yeah,
definitely from Disney.
From the Disney era, the new Disney that we're gonna get. But that's gonna be my end. I look forward to the next time. I have to go. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Joe.
I want to say thank you for letting me hijack your podcast. As a layman, I would love to see something that ties the storylines together. What happens in between? Like, how did the Empire rise from the Phantom Menace? How did these things happen? It's instead of just like, boom, there it is.
Yeah, because like you sort of see a lot of that, Pat, in the Clone Wars animated series. You see that slow rise to preeminence and power, especially when it comes to how Palpatine's portrayed as both like this sort of like prodigal leader character in the eyes of like the Republican citizenry, as well as like someone who is sort of Abe Lincoln-esque in the sense of like, I didn't want war, but I am a wartime leader. And you can sort of see like that visible public face of like pain and anguish that comes with being that sort of leader, while also at the same time seeing the background of like, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. This is everything's coming to plan. I will see my empire rise.
Yeah.
So a lot of that's in the animated series. You'll see it and it's fucking great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I know what I'm gonna have to binge for the next weekend.
Yeah, but like I definitely want to see more of as far as like in the form of a series, because I feel like maybe tackling a prequel rewrite may be a future long form series within the podcast that we could probably like we could watch the films individually, come back and like sort of talk about them, and then do a follow-up episode in regards to like what things we would change in the film perspective, because I know like definitely from like a writer's standpoint, as like a novelist, as like a wanting to be a novelist, I would like to change the story to make it more flow in a more show don't tell fashion. But I understand how in the sense of entertainment of a film where it's a nugget of entertainment for 2 to 3 hours that you can't do a whole lot with in regards to script writing. So I definitely concede that point. I think it would be fun to go movie by movie and figuring out how we would rewrite it together as a group to make it fit with things that make it better now, like the Clone Wars animated series and like the future projects that are coming down the pipeline from Disney in regards to the live action series that are improving a lot of the things post prequels, like the Cassian Andor series, and then a lot of the stuff that's going to be coming with like the Acolyte and Rangers of the Republic and whatnot, to sort of go more into that direction.
Yeah, I definitely think that if and when we do future podcasts about this sort of thing, instead of us being like, let's talk about the entire thing, we barely made it through the prequels. Right?
Well, I wasn't talking about the entire thing. I wanted to just specifically go with Attack of the Clones, because it's a film that most everyone in the fandom agrees is a bad film and it can be redone, and I just wanted to focus on that. But we got into so many tangents that I feel like we need a lot of contextual content ahead of that exercise before we even get into it. Like beyond just watching the film like by ourselves or like as a group or something, and then like hashing out how it is, and then how it is and how it was, like how it is now compared to how it was when we first watched it, and then how we would change it now with hindsight.
Yeah, I definitely think that us going film by film is probably a better call, especially because like it was a little odd starting at 2 for this film series.
Well, it wasn't. Well, the whole dedication, the whole podcast isn't meant to be like, oh, we're tackling the Star Wars prequels. It was more like, hey, I wanted to touch base on a few things that I talked with Alec about when I was talking with him on Skyrim, to sort of continue that conversation, but get more people involved because it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
But like, because I think depending on how we can schedule this out, another point that Alec and I talked about was the movie Prometheus, the Alien prequel.
Oh yeah. I need to rewatch that again if we're going to do that.
yeah. So that, plus I also want to touch base on like Tron Legacy, and then the fact that we're getting a Tron sequel, Tron 3, and sort of how how that series does it deserve to be continued, pivoted, or just ended.
Heck, do you want to hear about the other movies that we want to try and talk about? How there's going to be 2 more Mask movies?
Wait, like The Mask?
Like Jim Carrey confirmed it, I think this week, that he signed on for 2 more movies.
Jesus Christ. Oh.
So yeah, it's like
oh no.
Things
so
that
now
we'll
okay. When more details come out about that stuff, I don't want to theorize about The Mask, because the fucking comic books are a lot better than the fucking movie.
Yeah, I only watched the movie and it was a while ago, so I'm just like, what?
You fucking
Jim
what,
Carrey,
mate?
Are you even young enough to do 2 more movies on this type of character?
I mean, he did Eggman pretty well, but honestly, there's another movie I want to talk about, Sonic the Hedgehog, and how it might win an Oscar for Best Animated Film, maybe, or Best Feature Film, because it was
Why don't
good.
we just give him the award for simping for the fandom, right there? Jeez.
Honestly,
not that it didn't need it. Not that it didn't need it. But damn.
Yeah, and honestly, to sort of like transition that to like just the end of the podcast, and like kind of go back to a point I made earlier in this recording. So like we can make the prequels better with hindsight of all the content that was made after them, like Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and like some of the novels that came out that are still considered canon by Disney and whatnot. But like Sonic the Hedgehog is a fucking big trendsetter in the film industry, because the fans had such a big backlash and outcry towards a design and possible story beats that would have been tied to that design, that they delayed the film for a full year to rework it and to change it. And we got probably the best iteration of a film Sonic that we could get out of all of that reworking, which makes me even more excited for the fact that they've already done the rework for what the sequel is going to be like.
Yeah. So like as far as closing thoughts, I think that seeing that type of reaction from your fandom for a thing, it should definitely impact how your film plays out, because at the end of the day, how a filmmaker should make films is also be concerned about how your fandom is going to react to the images and to the scenes that you decide to lay out. Obviously, I'm not saying to like show us everything, but like show us the character models of characters that we damn well know are going to show up, and Sonic being one of them in this case makes sense to show us.
Yeah.
And the fan reaction to that influencing how the film should be, even though it makes you kind of look bad, the fact that you're giving in to an audience, you're doing it for them. You're doing it so that way your fandom is still alive.
It also the fan outcry also made Sega get involved and be like, hey, how about use our American our American animator representative that knows Sonic, and let them do the design. And
we don't do this here.
Yeah, like
basically,
because like honestly, like Sonic as a whole, and not to try to go into it as my closing remark, like Disney, I feel reacted in the wrong way to how fans reacted to The Last Jedi. Because Last Jedi bullied an actress to the point of not wanting to participate in the preceding film, but
Yeah.
they still had Rosebud in a minor role. I think what they should have done is give her a better role and not keep her in the box that Rian Johnson put her in. J.J. Abrams should have taken the higher road and had done something with what Rian Johnson gave him instead of trying to retcon everything within the span of 2 hours and having only a half hour, 45-minute long film that was not finished.
Yeah.
So, but like when you look at how how Sega and the studio that was producing, how Paramount reacted to the backlash against Jellicle Sonic, like Disney should have looked at that and gone like, huh. What if instead of like trying to film these things with the confidence in these directors and these creative minds that may or may not know Star Wars beyond just being passive fans like Rian Johnson, what if we teased concepts and script treatments and see what the reaction is? Because like we already know companies like Disney do intentional leaks. Yeah. Like do an intentional leak about different story details and see how the fans react, and then you see how things would change. And then like, okay, how about we take this, this, and this out of the script treatment, change this up that was in a previous treatment and add it to this, and then you have a more cohesive story and plot. But then that's also still kowtowing to, the fans, but I think that's a separate topic for a different conversation for another day. Torque, Pat, any other closing remarks?
I want to say apologize for. I came here to see. I saw some friends talking and didn't realize it was a podcast.
It's perfectly
fine. But then you made the mistake asking my opinion. So, but I'm gonna leave you with this: a Wreck-It Ralph Tron crossover.
Beat this podcast.
Wreck-It Ralph 2 is an atrocity against mankind and needs to be brought to trial in The Hague for committing a genocide against internet culture and trying to kowtow to big electronics corporations.
I have no idea what you're talking about. The fact that she's a princess now because some man thinks she needs help is the best line in that damn film.
and that's
well, thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, talk to you later. All right. So that's the pilot episode of a Distracted podcast. We'll
distracted so well.
Yeah, it definitely, like, the first hour played well to the name. So I think next time when we plan on doing this, we will definitely have a better grasp of how to go about this lovely format. But I think if I can plan with everybody and get everything rolling, I think the next episode will be about Prometheus specifically, because I feel like we need more time for Star Wars to sort of for us to watch movies, review them on individual episodes, and then get into them in depth is probably the best course of action. This was a really good exercise in like how to work this format and what we should do in the future for the format.
I agree. I mean, like, I don't know about anyone else, but I know I have access to the Prometheus movie. So, if we want to do our next subject be that, I am down for that. I would just need to know the day. I prefer Friday like today because I don't have work. But if that doesn't work for everyone, then obviously we'll figure out a better day. That said, I'm definitely down for more podcasting like this in the future. I mean, they definitely probably try and limit to more of like an hour or two.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to go for more of an hour, but this definitely became a Joe Rogan podcast experience of we got on a lot of tangents and had some interesting conversations, but didn't touch the topic focus.
We're so good at this,
but it's fine. It's a distracted podcast. It could be whatever we want, and I think just having an outlet of conversation and creativity is good.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, with that, I think that that wraps it up, at least today's podcast.
Yeah, of course. So if there's like any sort of like possible topics for the future that you want us to cover, or anything that you think we didn't touch upon that you want to state, for those or argued, I know for this podcast is going to be put up on YouTube for posterity. If you want to go there and rewatch this and sort of go through everything and make a rage rant in the comments, do it. I want you to. I dare you to.
Be nice to me though.
Feed me a like and subscribe, or follow and subscribe to my Twitch channel as well, so that way we can continue doing this and have reception be known. So that's been a Distracted Podcast. Thank you for listening and watching. Hopefully next time we'll have a better plan set in mind, because I went with this with reckless abandon, and I apologize.
And Happy New Year.
Happy
2021.
2020. No, it's 2021. Fuck you. God damn it, Josh. We talked about this.